The pen was shaking so hard in Ren Calder's hand that the ink nearly smeared across the signature line. One name, that's all it would take. One signature to hand over everything she'd fought for, everything her mother died protecting. Across the mahogany desk, Victor Hale smiled like a man who'd already won. Behind her, in the waiting room, her 15-year-old brother had no idea his sister was about to sell herself to save him. If you want to see how Ren fights her way out of the darkest contract ever made, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. Let me see how far this story travels. The offices of Hale Maritime Holdings occupied the top 3 floors of the Renaissance Tower, all glass and steel and the kind of silence that came with serious money. Ren stood in the reception area with her thrift store blazer buttoned wrong and her shoes pinching her feet, trying not to look like exactly what she was. A woman who hadn't slept in 36 hours and was running on gas station coffee and pure desperation. The receptionist hadn't looked up once since Ren walked in. "I have an appointment," Ren said again. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "With Mr. Hale. 3 o'clock. The woman's manicured nails clicked against her keyboard. "Name?" "Ren Calder." More clicking. The receptionist's mouth tightened almost imperceptibly. "Have a seat." Ren didn't sit. She couldn't. If she sat down, she might not get back up. Instead, she moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows and stared out at Memphis sprawled below. The Mississippi carving its slow path through the city, the pyramid gleaming in the October sun, Beale Street somewhere down there in the afternoon quiet before the music started. Somewhere down there was the apartment she was 3 months behind on. Somewhere down there was the restaurant where she'd worked double shifts until the owner sold to a corporate chain and they'd cleaned house. Somewhere down there was Liam's school, where he was probably sitting in chemistry class right now, not knowing that his sister was about to make a deal that would change everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from the number she'd been dreading. Final notice. Payment required by 5 p.m. or we proceed with eviction proceedings. Her hands were shaking again. She shoved the phone back in her pocket. "Ms. Calder?" The receptionist was standing now, her expression professionally neutral in that way that meant she knew exactly how bad things were and felt nothing about it. "Mr. Hale will see you now." The walk down the hallway felt like a funeral march, abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than Ren would make in a year. Carpet so thick her footsteps made no sound. Everything designed to remind you that you didn't belong here, that you were operating in a different world with different rules. The receptionist opened a door without knocking. "Miss Calder, sir." Victor Hale stood with his back to the door, looking out over the same view Ren had just been staring at. Except from up here, it probably felt like ownership instead of vertigo. He was older than she'd expected, mid-60s maybe, with silver hair and the kind of tan that came from sailing yachts instead of working construction. When he turned, his smile was warm and grandfatherly and didn't reach his eyes at all. "Ren, may I call you Ren?" She nodded because her voice wasn't working. "Please, sit down." He gestured to a leather chair positioned in front of his desk, like a confession booth. "Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" "I'm fine." "Of course you are." He settled into his own chair with the ease of a man who'd sat in a lot of chairs and owned most of them. "I appreciate you coming on such short notice. I know this must all feel very sudden." Sudden. Like the eviction notice had been sudden. Like losing her job had been sudden. Like the call from child services suggesting that maybe Liam would be better off in foster care while Ren got her situation under control had been sudden. Nothing about the last 2 years had been sudden. It had been a slow drowning. "You said you had a proposal," Ren said. "Something that could help with my, situation." "Indeed." Victor opened a folder on his desk. "I've been following your circumstances with some interest, Ren. Losing your mother so young, what was it, 2 years ago? 26 months? 26 months, and you've been raising your brother alone ever since. Working 3 jobs, I understand. Until recently." The way he said it made her skin crawl. Not sympathetic, observational. Like he was describing a specimen under glass. "I'm looking for work," she said. "If you have a position available. I'm afraid I'm not offering you a job." He leaned back in his chair. "What I'm offering is significantly more substantial and significantly more binding." He slid a document across the desk. The pages were thick, expensive. Contract paper. Ren didn't touch it. I don't understand. It's quite simple. I'm proposing a marriage contract. 1 year, legally binding. At the end of that year, you'll receive a settlement of $2 million. More than enough to secure your brother's future, pay for his education, establish yourself in any career you choose. The words didn't make sense. They were in English, but they might as well have been in another language entirely. You want to marry me? I want to enter into a contractual agreement with you, yes. Marriage in the legal sense, though I assure you the arrangement would be purely professional. You would maintain your own residence, your own life. We would appear together at certain social functions as required, but beyond that you would be free to continue as you are. Why? It was the only question that mattered. Why her? Why this? Why was a man who probably had more money than most small countries sitting across from her offering what sounded like something out of a Victorian novel? Victor's smile sharpened. Let's just say I have certain business interests that would benefit from the optics of a stable marriage. And you, my dear, have certain needs that $2 million would address quite thoroughly. This is insane. Perhaps. But insanity is a luxury you can't currently afford, is it? He tapped the folder. You're being evicted in, he checked his watch, approximately 2 hours. Child Services is scheduled to visit your apartment tomorrow morning at 9. I suspect they'll find the conditions less than ideal for a teenage boy, unless, of course, you're no longer facing eviction, unless you suddenly have the resources to demonstrate stability. Ren's stomach turned over. How do you know all this? I make it my business to know things. He pushed the contract closer. Read it if you like. Have a lawyer look it over, though I suspect that's a financial impossibility at the moment. Or you can trust that I'm offering you exactly what I say I'm offering: security, safety, a future. In exchange for what? 1 year of your time, appearances at functions, a signature on a marriage certificate, discretion regarding the nature of our arrangement. His eyes locked on hers. And cooperation. That last word landed differently, heavier. What does that mean? It means you do what I ask, when I ask it, within the bounds of the contract, of course. Nothing illegal, nothing immoral, simply compliance. Ren's hands were shaking again. She pressed them flat against her thighs under the desk where he couldn't see. I need to think about this. Of course, you have... He checked his watch again. Approximately 90 minutes before the eviction is filed. After that, I'm afraid the offer expires. Financial stability tends to be time-sensitive, you understand. He was boxing her in. Every word, every gesture, every carefully timed revelation, it was all designed to back her into a corner where there was only one door and he was standing in it. My brother, Ren said. Liam. He can't know about this. About the contract, the money, any of it. As far as he's concerned, you've met someone wonderful who's helped turn things around. Young love, a whirlwind romance. I'm quite good at playing the part. Victor stood, signaling the end of the conversation. I'll give you some privacy to review the contract. There's a pen on the desk. When you're ready, just sign the last page. And if I don't sign? His smile was gentle, fatherly even. It made her want to throw up. Then you walk out of here with nothing, and tomorrow morning Child Services takes your brother. You'll fight it, of course. Tie it up in court for months, maybe years, during which time Liam will be in the system, bouncing between foster homes, wondering why his sister abandoned him. Even if you eventually get him back, and the statistics aren't encouraging, he'll never quite trust you the same way again. Trauma has a way of settling into bones at that age. He moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. Or you can sign. Liam stays with you. You get the resources to give him everything your mother would have wanted, and in 1 year, you walk away wealthy enough to never worry about eviction notices again. He opened the door. I'll be right outside. The door clicked shut. Ren was alone with the contract and the pen and the view of Memphis spreading out below like a city that had already forgotten she existed. She picked up the contract with shaking hands. The language was dense, legal, full of clauses and subclauses that she'd need a dictionary and a law degree to fully parse. But certain phrases jumped out. Party of the first part agrees to maintain the appearance of a bona fide marriage. All public statements regarding the nature of the relationship shall be subject to approval by party of the second part. Termination of agreement prior to the 12-month period shall result in forfeiture of all compensation and assets. Party of the first part waives all rights to challenge the validity of this agreement upon execution. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. Eviction crew dispatched, 5 p.m. deadline confirmed. Then another text, this one from Liam's school. Liam Calder missed chemistry and English today. Please contact the attendance office. Her heart stopped. Liam never skipped class. Never. He was the good kid, the one who did his homework at the kitchen table while Wren worked her shifts, who got straight A's because he decided that was his job while she handled everything else. She dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail. Liam, it's me. Where are you? Call me back right now. She tried again. Voicemail. The door opened. Victor stepped back in, and the expression on his face said he already knew. Problem? My brother's not at school. How troubling. He didn't sound troubled. Perhaps he's at your apartment? Though I believe the landlord changed the locks this morning. Standard procedure once the eviction notice is filed. Wren stood so fast the chair scraped back. You locked us out? We have until 5? The landlord has certain discretions. I'm sure it's simply a miscommunication. Victor's voice was silk over steel. Of course, if you'd like me to make a call, smooth things over, perhaps even convince him to reconsider the entire eviction. He let the sentence hang. Wren's phone rang. Unknown number. She grabbed it. Hello? Is this Wren Calder? A woman's voice, professional, clipped. Yes. This is Angela Martinez from Child Protective Services. We've received a report regarding Liam Calder's living situation. We'd like to schedule an emergency evaluation. No. Wren's voice came out sharp. No, you can't. He's fine. We're fine. Ms. Calder, I understand this is difficult, but we have protocols. A minor was seen attempting to access a locked apartment this afternoon. When questioned, he stated he had nowhere else to go. Given the eviction proceedings and your employment status, where is he? Wren's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. Where's my brother? He's safe. He's at our office on Union Avenue. But Ms. Calder, I need to be clear. We'll need to see proof of stable housing before we can release him back to your custody. If you're currently homeless, I'm not homeless. The eviction filing suggests otherwise. That's being handled. It's a mistake. I can fix it. There was a pause. How quickly can you fix it? Wren looked at Victor. He was watching her with the patience of a man who'd already won and was just waiting for her to realize it. Give me 1 hour, Wren said. Miss Calder, 1 hour, please. Another pause. 1 hour. But if you can't provide documentation of stable housing by then, we'll need to place Liam in temporary care until... Wren hung up. She couldn't hear the rest of that sentence. Victor gestured to the contract still sitting on the desk. Terrible timing. But I suppose that's the thing about crises. They don't wait for convenient moments. This was you. Wren's voice was hollow. All of it. The eviction, the timing, child services, you orchestrated this. I identified an opportunity and provided a solution. What you do with that solution is entirely up to you. He checked his watch. 58 minutes now. Wren picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking so hard she could barely hold it. Before I sign, she said, I need to know. Why me? You could buy anyone, marry anyone. Why go through all this trouble? For the first time, something flickered across Victor's face. Not quite emotion, more like satisfaction. Let's just say your mother left behind something I want, something she hid very well, and marriage to her daughter seemed the most efficient way to access it. The words hit like a slap. My mother had nothing. We had nothing. Your mother had secrets, and now those secrets are yours. He moved closer. Sign the contract, Wren. Save your brother. In 1 year, you'll be free and wealthy. Or don't sign and watch everything collapse. Either way, I get what I want. This just seemed like the option that benefits us both. Wren looked down at the signature line, at the pen in her trembling hand, at the view of Memphis beyond the window where somewhere her brother was sitting in a child services office wondering where his sister was. She thought about her mother, about the jazz records she used to play, the ones Wren had sold at a garage sale to pay for the funeral, about the shoebox of photographs and sheet music that was all that was left, something she hid very well. What had her mother hidden? What could possibly be worth all this? But there wasn't time to figure it out. There was only time to choose. Sign or lose Liam, sign or watch him disappear into the system, sign or destroy the last promise she'd made to her dying mother. Take care of your brother, no matter what. The pen touched paper. Wait. The voice came from behind her, deep, quiet, with an edge that made even Victor's expression flicker. Ren turned. A man stood in the doorway, tall, dark-skinned, wearing a suit that probably cost more than the contract she was about to sign. He wasn't smiling. His eyes were fixed on Victor with the kind of focus that made the temperature in the room drop. "Who the hell are you?" Victor's voice had lost its grandfatherly warmth. "This is a private meeting." Darius Knox. The man stepped into the office like he owned it, and this meeting just became public. Victor's face went pale. Actually pale. For the first time since Ren had walked in, he looked like a man who hadn't planned for something. "Mr. Knox, I wasn't aware you had business with my company." "I don't." Darius's eyes cut to Ren. "I have business with her." Ren stood frozen, pen still in hand, caught between two men who were looking at each other like they were already in a fight she couldn't see. "Ms. Calder and I are in the middle of finalizing an agreement," Victor said. His voice had steel in it now. "Whatever you think you need to discuss with her can wait." "No." Darius moved closer. "It really can't." He looked at Ren directly for the first time, and something in his expression made her hand lower. Not fear, something else. Something like recognition. "Do you know what he's really after?" Darius asked. "That's none of your concern," Victor snapped. "Your mother's jazz catalog," Darius continued, ignoring him completely. "Original recordings, unreleased tracks, masters from the 70s and 80s when she was performing at clubs Victor used to run before he went legitimate, or what passes for legitimate in his world." Ren's mind went blank. "My mother was a music teacher. She gave piano lessons. She was a performer before you were born, before she met your father. Stage name was Melody Blue." Darius pulled out his phone, tapped something, and held it up. The woman in the photograph was young, maybe 25, with Ren's eyes and Ren's smile, standing on a stage with a microphone and a spotlight that made her glow. The caption read, "Melody Blue at the Blue Note, 1979. "That's not." But Ren's voice died because it was. It was her mother, younger than Ren had ever seen her, alive in a way Ren had never known. "Those recordings are worth millions now," Darius said. "Vintage jazz is having a renaissance. Collectors are paying 7 figures for original masters. And your mother's catalog? It's pristine, unreleased, sitting in a vault somewhere that Victor's been trying to find for 2 years. Victor's jaw was tight. "You have no proof of any of this." "I have copies of every backdoor deal you've made trying to track it down, every forged document, every bribed clerk." Darius's smile was sharp. "You're right that marriage to Ren gives you legal access to her mother's estate. What you didn't count on was someone else knowing exactly what you're doing." Ren's head was spinning. "How do you know all this?" "Because I make it my business to know what Victor Hale is up to. And when I heard he was pressuring a 25-year-old woman into a marriage contract, I got curious." Darius looked at Victor. "Tell her the rest. Tell her about Christina." Victor's expression went flat. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Christina Morales, 28. Signed a similar contract with you 3 years ago. Disappeared 6 months later. Police report says she ran off to Europe. But funny thing, her passport never left the country. Her bank account was never touched. Her family hasn't heard from her in 3 years." The room went silent. Ren's hand was shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from something colder, something sharper. "You're lying," she said to Darius. But she was looking at Victor. Victor's face was composed, but there was something in his eyes now, something calculating. "This is slander," he said quietly. "Actionable slander. You walk out of here now, Knox, and we'll forget this conversation happened." "Or what?" Darius didn't move. "You'll make me disappear too?" The silence stretched. Ren looked down at the contract, at her signature line, at the pen still in her hand. Then she looked at her phone. 52 minutes left. "My brother," she said. Her voice was steadier now. "Child Services has him. If I don't provide proof of housing in the next hour..." I can handle child services, Darius said. And the eviction. And Victor. Why? Ren turned to face him fully. Why would you do that? You don't know me. Because Victor Hale destroys people for profit, and I'm tired of watching it happen. Darius's expression didn't change. And because your mother's catalog belongs to you. Not him. Not anyone else. You. Victor laughed. It was an ugly sound. You think you can just walk in here and take my deal away? You think this girl is going anywhere with you? He looked at Ren. He's a criminal, Ren. Darius Knox runs half the underground in Memphis. Drugs, smuggling, protection rackets. You walk out of here with him, you're trading one devil for another. Maybe, Darius said, but at least I'm honest about what I am. You dress up your contracts in legal language and call it respectability. Doesn't make you any less of a predator. Ren's phone buzzed. 48 minutes. She had to choose. Right now, this moment. Sign Victor's contract. Save Liam. Sell herself for a year and hope she survived whatever he had planned. Or trust a complete stranger who claimed to know secrets about her mother she'd never heard. Who said he could fix everything? Who might be exactly the criminal Victor claimed? Both options were insane. Both options could destroy her. If I leave with you, Ren said to Darius, what happens to my brother? I make a call. Child Services gets documentation that you have stable housing. Your landlord discovers the eviction was filed in error. Liam goes home with you tonight. Darius pulled out his phone. I can do it right now. And what do you want in exchange? To stop Victor from doing to you what he did to Christina, and to help you figure out what your mother left behind. He met her eyes. No contract, no strings, just help. Nobody helps for nothing. You're right. I want Victor gone. Taking him down requires leverage. Your mother's catalog, whatever secrets are in it, that's leverage. So I help you, you help me. But you stay in control. Your choices. Your life. Victor stepped forward. Ren, don't be foolish. You don't know this man. You don't know what he is capable of. And I know you? Ren cut him off. Her voice was sharp now, clear. You've spent 2 years destroying my life to force me into this room. You threatened my brother. You claim my dead mother had secrets worth millions and you're entitled to them. Why would I trust anything you say? Because I'm offering you certainty, money, security. He's offering you nothing but promises. Victor's voice was hard now. You walk out of here, that offer disappears. Forever. And when Knox gets bored of his little crusade, when he's taken whatever he wanted from you, you'll come crawling back and I won't be here. Ren looked at the contract one last time. Then she set down the pen. I'm not signing. Victor's expression went cold. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. She looked at Darius. Make the call. Darius was already dialing. Ren walked toward the door, her legs unsteady, her heart hammering, everything in her screaming that she'd just made the worst decision of her life. But Victor's voice stopped her. Your mother, he said quietly. She didn't die in a car accident, Ren. Ren froze. What? Victor smiled. It was the ugliest thing she'd ever seen. The official report said mechanical failure, brake line malfunction. Very tragic, very sudden. He leaned back against his desk. But brake lines don't cut themselves. The words didn't land right. They couldn't be real. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself why a woman who was meticulous about car maintenance suddenly had catastrophic brake failure on a clear Tuesday afternoon. Ask yourself why the police closed the investigation so quickly. Ask yourself who benefits from her being gone. Ren couldn't breathe. Darius's hand was on her arm, steady. He's baiting you. Don't listen. She knew I was looking for the catalog, Victor continued. She knew I'd found out about it, and she was going to move it somewhere I'd never find it. So I made sure she didn't get the chance. He straightened. You want the truth about your mother? It died with her. Unless you sign that contract and I decide to share it with you. Ren's vision was blurring. Rage, grief, shock. It was all hitting at once, drowning her. You killed her. I removed an obstacle. Business, not personal. Victor's voice was casual. Sign the contract and I'll tell you everything. Where she was going, what she knew. Maybe even where the catalog is if you're useful enough. Walk out of here with Knox and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if your mother would still be alive if she just cooperated. Darius pulled Ren toward the door. We're leaving. Now. But Ren couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't process what she'd just heard. Her mother hadn't died in an accident. She'd been murdered by the man who was now smiling at her like he'd just won. Last chance, Ren, Victor said. Sign and get answers. Walk away and live with questions forever. Darius's grip tightened. He's lying. This is manipulation. Don't let him. My mother's dead because of him. Ren's voice was hollow. Because of some recordings, some money. She's dead. And signing won't bring her back. It'll just make you his next victim. Darius was already moving them toward the door. We leave, we regroup, we figure this out. But not here, not now. Ren looked back at Victor one last time. He was still smiling. Run along, he said. But I'll be seeing you soon, Ren. We're not done. Not by a long shot. Then Darius pulled her out of the office, down the hallway, past the receptionist who didn't look up, into an elevator that dropped so fast Ren's stomach lurched. The doors opened on the parking garage. A black SUV was waiting, engine running. Get in, Darius said. Ren climbed in because her legs were shaking too hard to stand. Because everything she'd thought she knew had just shattered. Because her mother had been murdered, and the man who did it had just tried to trick her into marrying him. The SUV pulled out into Memphis traffic. Darius was on his phone, speaking low and fast. Yeah. Union Avenue. Child Services. 15 minutes. I don't care what you have to pay. Make it happen. Documentation by 4:30, no later. He hung up and looked at Ren. Your brother will be released in 20 minutes. The eviction will be dismissed. You'll have stable housing documentation by tonight. His voice was steady, certain. You're safe. He's safe. Victor doesn't touch either of you. Ren stared out the window at the city blurring past. He killed my mother, she said. I know. You knew? Before today? Darius was quiet for a moment. I suspected. I couldn't prove it. Still can't. But yes, I suspected. And you didn't tell me. Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was crazy? He leaned forward. You needed to hear it from him. You needed to see what he is. Now you know. Ren's hands were shaking again. What do I do? You survive. You protect your brother. And when you're ready, when you're strong enough, you make him pay for what he did. I'm not strong enough. Not yet. Darius's eyes were dark, serious. But you will be. The SUV turned onto Union Avenue. Ren could see the Child Services building ahead, and her heart jumped because Liam was in there, confused and scared and waiting for her. Why are you helping me? Ren asked one more time. Darius looked at her for a long moment. Because I knew your mother, he said quietly. A long time ago. Before you were born. And I owed her a debt I never got to pay back. He opened the car door. Now I'm paying it to you. Before Ren could respond, he was gone, disappearing into the Memphis afternoon like he'd never been there at all. Ren sat alone in the SUV for 10 seconds, 20, trying to make her hands stop shaking, trying to make sense of anything that had just happened. Then she opened the door and ran toward the building where her brother was waiting, because that was the only thing that made sense anymore. Save Liam. Figure out the rest later, one crisis at a time. Liam was sitting in a plastic chair in the waiting room, backpack between his knees, staring at his phone like it held answers it couldn't possibly give. When he looked up and saw Ren, his whole face collapsed with relief. Ren. She crossed the room in 3 steps and pulled him into a hug that probably squeezed too hard, but she couldn't help it. He was solid and real and safe, and for about 10 seconds, that was the only thing that mattered. I'm sorry, he said into her shoulder. I went to the apartment and the locks were different and I didn't know where else to go. It's okay. It's handled. Ren pulled back and looked at him, checking for damage she knew wouldn't be visible. Are you okay? Did they... I'm fine. They just asked a bunch of questions about where we live and if you were around and stuff. His eyes were red. They said we might be homeless. Are we homeless? No. The word came out harder than she meant it to. We're not. There was a mistake with the eviction, but it's fixed now. We can go home. A woman appeared in the doorway behind them, Angela Martinez, the voice from the phone. She had kind eyes and a tired face, and the look of someone who'd seen too many situations exactly like this one. Miss Calder, I received documentation about 15 minutes ago showing stable housing and employment verification. Everything appears to be in order. Wren's brain stuttered. 15 minutes. Darius had made one phone call and somehow produced documents that satisfied child services in 15 minutes. So Liam can come home with me? Yes, though I'll need to schedule a follow-up visit within the next 2 weeks. Just standard procedure to ensure the living situation remains stable. Angela handed Wren a card. My direct line. If anything changes, if you need resources, please call. We're here to help, not to separate families. Wren took the card because she didn't know what else to do. Thank you. Angela looked at Liam, then back at Wren. You're doing a good thing raising your brother, but you don't have to do it alone. There are programs, assistance options. We're fine, Wren said. Too fast, too sharp. Angela's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or pity. Of course. I'll be in touch about that follow-up. Then she was gone, and it was just Wren and Liam standing in the fluorescent buzz of the child services waiting room, trying to figure out how to be okay. Can we go? Liam asked. His voice was small. Yeah, let's go. The address Darius had texted her led to an apartment building in Midtown, brick and old, but well-maintained with actual trees in front, and a lobby that didn't smell like mildew. The key was waiting in an envelope taped to the door of Unit 3B, along with a note in handwriting that was too neat to be anything but professional. Leases paid through the end of the year, utilities included. Don't contact me unless it's an emergency. DK. Inside, the apartment was furnished. Nothing fancy, IKEA-grade sofa, basic dining table, beds already made in both bedrooms, but clean and functional, and about 3 times the size of the place they'd been evicted from. Liam dropped his backpack and just stood there, taking it in. Whose place is this? A friend. The lie tasted wrong, but the truth was worse. Someone who's helping us out while we get back on our feet. What friend? You don't have friends. He said it matter-of-factly, not cruel, just observant in that way teenagers had of seeing straight through bullshit. Someone Mom knew, from before. Wren moved to the kitchen, opened the fridge. It was stocked. Milk, eggs, bread, actual vegetables. He heard about our situation and wanted to help. That's weird. Yeah, it is. Liam sat down on the couch, testing it like it might disappear. Is this real? Like, are we actually allowed to be here? Yes? For how long? I don't know yet. Wren pulled out her phone, stared at the number Darius had called from. She should text him, thank him, ask what the hell was happening. But her hands were still shaking and her head was still full of Victor's words. Break lines don't cut themselves, and she couldn't make herself type anything that made sense. Wren? Liam was looking at her with those eyes that were too old for 15. What's going on? And don't say nothing because you're doing that thing where you lie really badly. She sat down next to him. The couch was surprisingly comfortable. Things got complicated today, but I handled it. We're okay now. You always say that. Because it's always true. Is it? He wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring at his hands. Mom used to say that too. Right up until she wasn't okay anymore. The words hit like a fist. Wren's throat closed. Liam, I'm not stupid. I know you're working yourself to death trying to keep us afloat. I know we're broke. I know you haven't slept more than 4 hours a night in like 6 months. His voice cracked. I know you're drowning and you won't let me help because you think you have to do everything yourself. You're 15. You shouldn't have to. And you're 25. You shouldn't have to either, but here we are. He finally looked at her. So just tell me the truth. Are we okay? Really? Wren wanted to lie, wanted to smile and say everything was fine and send him to bed and collapse in private like she always did. But she was so tired, and he was right. He wasn't stupid. I don't know, she said quietly. I thought I had a plan today, a way to fix everything. But it turned out to be a trap and someone else helped me get out of it. And now we're here and I don't actually know what happens next. What kind of trap? The kind that would have sold me for a year to a man who... She stopped. She couldn't say the rest. Couldn't tell him that their mother's death might not have been an accident, Not yet. Maybe not ever. Someone bad. Someone who wanted to use me to get something that belonged to Mom. Liam's eyes went wide. What did Mom have that anyone would want? I don't know yet. Music, apparently. Recordings from before we were born. Ren rubbed her face. It doesn't make sense. Mom was a piano teacher. She gave lessons to kids who couldn't afford real instructors. She didn't have some secret catalog worth millions. Maybe she did and she never told us. Why wouldn't she tell us? I don't know. Same reason she never told us she used to perform? Same reason she never talked about her life before Dad? Liam picked at a thread on the couch. Mom had secrets. We both know that. He was right. Their mother had been loving and present and completely closed off about anything before she'd become a mother. Ren had always assumed it was just painful, losing their father when Ren was 3, raising 2 kids alone, building a quiet life out of wreckage. Mom's to butt. But now she wondered what else had been buried in that silence. I need to find out what she left behind, Ren said. Whatever Victor was looking for, whatever's worth all this, I need to know what it is. Who's Victor? The man who set the trap. The one who… She stopped again. The bad guy. And the person who helped you get away from him? The one who got us this place? His name is Darius Knox. Liam's expression changed, actually froze. Darius Knox? Like the Darius Knox? Ren's stomach dropped. You know him? Everyone knows him. He runs half the city, Ren. Protection, smuggling, the underground clubs on Beale Street that don't exist on paper. Liam was staring at her like she'd lost her mind. You made a deal with Darius Knox? I didn't make a deal. He helped. Nobody helps for free. Especially not him. He said he knew Mom, that he owed her something. And you believed him? The question hung there. Did she believe him? She didn't even know him. Didn't know if anything he'd said was true or just another trap with better packaging. I didn't have a choice, Ren said finally. It was him or Victor, and Victor… She couldn't finish that sentence either. Liam was quiet for a long moment. Then he said very carefully, Are we in danger? I don't know. That's not the answer I wanted. It's the only answer I have. Ren stood up. She needed to move, needed to do something with the energy crawling under her skin. But whatever happens, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find out what Mom left behind, and I'm going to make sure Victor never gets his hands on it. And I'm going to keep you safe. That's the only thing I know for sure. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. Ren, I already lost Mom. I'm not losing you too. She turned to face him. So yeah, maybe things are dangerous. Maybe I'm in over my head. Maybe I just traded one bad situation for another one I don't understand yet. But you're safe. This apartment is paid for. You're going to keep going to school and doing your homework and being a normal kid, and I'm going to handle the rest. I'm not a kid. You're my kid. That's the deal. She tried to smile. It probably didn't work. Now go do your chemistry homework or whatever you missed today. Liam stood up, shouldered his backpack, and headed toward the bedrooms. At the door, he stopped. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing, walking away from whatever that guy wanted. He looked back at her. Mom would have done the same thing. Then he disappeared into his room, leaving Ren alone with the weight of everything she wasn't saying. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Huey's on Madison. Come alone. DK, Ren stared at the message for a full minute. Then she typed back, Why? The response came immediately. Because you want answers about your mother. And I'm the only one who has them. She should have been scared, should have been suspicious, should have done 1,000 things that weren't typing, I'll be there and hitting send. But she was too tired for fear, too angry for caution, too desperate for anything that looked like truth. Tomorrow she'd meet Darius Knox in a public restaurant and hope she wasn't walking into another trap. Tonight she'd sleep for the first time in months in a bed that didn't belong to her, in an apartment paid for by a criminal, while her brother did homework in the next room and pretended everything was normal. It wasn't normal. Nothing was normal. But they were alive. They were together. And for tonight, that had to be enough. Huey's was a Memphis institution. Burgers and beer and basketball on the TVs, the kind of place where locals went and tourists took photos of the toothpicks stuck in the ceiling. Ren arrived 10 minutes early and sat at a booth in the back, watching the door. Darius walked in at exactly 2 o'clock, scanning the room with the kind of awareness that said he knew every exit and every person who might be a problem. When his eyes landed on Ren, he crossed the restaurant like he owned it. He slid into the booth across from her. Up close, in daylight, he looked older than she'd thought, maybe 40, with gray threading his temples and lines around his eyes that came from either laughter or violence. Probably both. "You came," he said. "You said you had answers." "I do. But first, how's your brother?" "He's fine. At school, where he should be." "And the apartment?" "It's fine. Everything's fine." Ren leaned forward. "Now tell me about my mother." A waitress appeared with menus. Darius ordered a burger without looking at the menu. Ren asked for water and nothing else. When the waitress left, Darius pulled out a folder and set it on the table between them. "Your mother's real name was Melody Ann Calder, born 1954 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, moved to Memphis in 1973 to sing jazz. By 1975, she was performing at every major club in the city, the Blue Note, the Rum Boogie Cafe, B.B. King's. She was good, really good. Labels were circling." He opened the folder. Inside were photographs. Her mother, young and luminous in dresses that sparkled under stage lights. Her mother with a microphone, eyes closed, lost in music. Her mother laughing with people Ren didn't recognize. "I don't understand. She never said anything about this, never played anything but classical piano after we were born." "She walked away from it, 1982, right after you were born. Stopped performing, stopped recording, stopped everything. Changed her name back to her maiden name, Calder, instead of the stage name Blue, and became a piano teacher in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions about her past." "Why?" "Your father." Darius pulled out another photo. A man Ren barely recognized. She'd only seen one picture of him, and that had burned in a house fire when she was 7. Marcus Calder. He was a session musician. They met at a recording studio, fell hard, got married fast. By all accounts, it was real. But Marcus had debts. Bad ones. To people who don't forgive debts. "What kind of people?" Darius met her eyes. "My kind of people." The word settled heavy. "When Marcus died, car accident officially, though I suspect it was less accidental than the report claimed, your mother had a choice. Keep performing, keep visible, and put herself and you at risk of the people Marcus owed coming to collect, or disappear. Become someone else, someone ordinary." He closed the folder. "She chose you." Ren's throat was tight. "The recordings, the catalog Victor mentioned, those are real?" "Very real. Your mother recorded an entire album in 1981. Original compositions, standards, some covers that would make collectors weep. It was supposed to be her breakthrough. The label was ready to promote it nationally, but then Marcus died and she pulled the masters before it could be released. Buried them somewhere, even the label couldn't find them." "Where?" "That's the question Victor's been trying to answer for 2 years. Darius leaned back. He ran the Blue Note back in the day. He has connections to the label that almost released your mother's album. When the vintage jazz market exploded and collectors started hunting for lost recordings, he remembered Melody Blue, started digging, found out she'd changed her name, had kids, was living quiet in Memphis, found out about the unreleased album, and decided to marry me to get access to it. Marriage gives him legal rights to your mother's estate, including any intellectual property. The catalog becomes his the moment you sign that contract." Darius's expression was hard. "Christina Morales? The woman I mentioned yesterday? She was the daughter of another musician Victor was hunting. He used the same play. Marriage contract, promises of money, threats against her family." She signed. 6 months later, she was gone and her father's catalog was in Victor's hands. "You think he killed her?" "I know he did. I just can't prove it." Darius pulled out his phone, scrolled, showed her a photo. A young woman with dark hair and a bright smile, standing in front of a mural in Overton Park. Christina was 28, preschool teacher, no criminal record, no reason to run. But according to the official story, she abandoned her family and fled to Barcelona with some man nobody ever met. Ren stared at the photo. Christina looked happy, normal, like someone who had a life worth living. Why didn't anyone investigate? Because Victor's good at making things look clean, and because he owns enough people, cops, lawyers, clerks, that investigations tend to close before they get interesting. Darius put his phone away. That's why I stepped in yesterday. I've been watching Victor for 3 years, waiting for him to make a move I could use against him. When I heard he was pressuring you, I knew it was the same play, and I wasn't going to let it happen again. So you saved me to take down Victor. I saved you because letting you sign that contract would have made you his property, and I've seen what he does to his property. Darius's voice was flat. Taking him down is secondary. Keeping you alive is primary. The waitress brought food. Darius's burger was massive. Ren's water had lemon in it she hadn't asked for. What do you want from me? Ren asked. Help finding your mother's catalog. It's the only leverage we have against Victor. He spent 2 years and God knows how much money trying to locate it. If we find it first, we control the game. And then what? Then we expose him. We prove what he did to Christina. We make sure he never traps another woman the way he tried to trap you. Darius took a bite of his burger, chewed, swallowed. And we make sure your mother's music goes where it belongs, to you and Liam, not to a man who killed her to get it. Ren's hands clenched on the table. You said yesterday you suspected her death wasn't an accident. Now you're saying Victor killed her. He orchestrated it. I don't know if he cut the brake line himself or paid someone else to do it. But your mother was about to move the catalog out of Memphis. She'd figured out Victor was looking for it. She was going to hide it somewhere he'd never find it, and then she was going to disappear with you and Liam. Darius's eyes were steady. She died 3 days before she was supposed to leave. The restaurant noise faded to white static. Ren could hear her own heartbeat, too loud, too fast. How do you know all this? Because she called me the week before she died, asked if I could help her disappear, said someone was hunting her past and she needed to protect her kids. His voice was quieter now. I said yes. I made arrangements, and then before I could get her out, she was dead. You could have told me this yesterday. Would you have believed me, or would you have thought I was lying to manipulate you away from Victor? Darius pushed the folder toward her. Now you've had time to think, time to see what Victor is, time to understand that everything I'm telling you is true, even if it sounds insane. Ren opened the folder again, looked at her mother's face in those old photographs, young and alive and full of a future that had been stolen from her. I want to find the catalog, she said. I want to expose Victor. I want everyone to know what he did. Then we work together. What does that mean? It means you let me help you. I have resources, people, connections, information Victor can't access. You have something he wants more than anything. Between us, we might actually be able to stop him. And when we do, when the catalog is found and Victor's in prison or dead or whatever happens to men like him, what then? You just walk away? Darius was quiet for a moment. I don't walk away from debts. Your mother asked me for help and I failed her. I don't fail twice. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Ren looked at him, really looked, tried to see past the expensive suit and the carefully controlled expression to whatever was underneath. She saw scars at his knuckles, saw the way he sat with his back to the wall and his eyes on the exits, saw the weight of someone who'd done things he couldn't undo and was trying to balance the scales anyway. I don't trust you, she said. Smart. But I trust Victor less, and I can't do this alone. No, you can't. She hated that he was right, hated that she needed help from a man who ran the Memphis Underground and probably had blood on his hands. But hatred didn't change reality. Where do we start? She asked. Darius smiled. It wasn't warm, but it was real. We start with your mother's things, everything she left behind. Papers, photos, sheet music, anything that might tell us where she hid the catalog. I sold most of it after she died, to pay for the funeral and the first month's rent. The memory tasted like ash. There wasn't much. She didn't keep a lot of stuff. What's left? A box, maybe 2. In a storage unit in Fraser. I haven't opened it in 2 years. Then that's where we go. Darius stood, threw cash on the table. Now, preferably. Before Victor figures out you didn't sign his contract and decides to escalate. Escalate how? However he needs to. Victor doesn't lose gracefully. The longer we wait, the more dangerous this gets. Ren stood. Her legs felt unsteady. If we do this, If we find the catalog and take down Victor, I need a promise. What promise? That Liam stays out of it, completely. Whatever happens, he doesn't get pulled into this. Darius looked at her for a long moment, then he nodded. You have my word. Your brother stays clean. Your word doesn't mean anything to me yet. Then I'll have to earn it. He gestured toward the door. Let's go. The storage unit was in a building that looked like it had survived the apocalypse through sheer stubbornness. Chain link fence, flickering lights, units that smelled like mildew and regret. Wren's key still worked, which felt like a small miracle. Inside Unit 217 were boxes stacked haphazardly, most of them labeled in Wren's handwriting from 2 years ago when grief had been too heavy to organize anything properly. She'd just thrown her mother's belongings into whatever containers she could find and sealed them away because looking at them hurt too much. Now she pulled them open one by one while Darius watched from the doorway. Clothes, books, kitchen stuff that wasn't worth keeping but Wren couldn't throw away. A photo album with pictures of Wren and Liam as kids, their mother smiling in every frame. There has to be more than this, Darius said. There isn't. She lived simple. She didn't... Wren stopped. At the bottom of the last box, under a layer of sheet music, was something wrapped in cloth. She pulled it out, unwrapped it carefully. A journal. Leather-bound, worn at the edges, filled with her mother's handwriting. Wren opened it to the first page. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And it means you're in danger. Her hands started shaking. Darius moved closer. What is it? A warning. Wren's voice was barely a whisper. She knew something was going to happen. She kept reading. I never wanted you to know about my past, about who I was before I became your mother. But if you're reading this, then someone has found out. Someone is hunting what I left behind, and you need to know the truth before they use it against you. The catalog exists, 10 songs, original recordings, worth more than I ever imagined when I made them. I hid them because they were dangerous, because the wrong people knowing about them could destroy everything I built with you and Liam. But if I'm gone, they're yours, your inheritance, your protection. The key is in the music, the place I felt safest, the place where your father proposed. Find it, and you'll find everything. The entry ended there. No more details, no clear directions. Wren flipped through the rest of the journal, more entries, more fragments of her mother's life, but nothing that spelled out where the catalog was hidden. The place she felt safest, Wren said. The place where my father proposed. Do you know where that was? Darius shook his head. Your mother never talked about Marcus around me. I knew they were married, knew he died, but she kept that part of her life private. Wren closed her eyes, trying to remember. She'd been 3 when her father died. Her memories were fragments, a voice, a laugh, hands lifting her up. Nothing concrete, nothing useful. But Liam might know something. Their mother had talked to him differently, told him stories Wren had been too young to hear. I need to talk to my brother, Wren said. Not alone. Victor knows where you live by now. He'll be watching. So what do I do? Hide? No. You bring Liam somewhere safe and we figure this out together. Darius pulled out his phone. I know a place. Neutral ground. Victor won't move against you there. Why not? Because it's mine, and he knows better than to start a war he can't win. Wren wanted to argue, wanted to say she could handle this herself, that she didn't need protection from a man whose help came with prices she couldn't see yet. But her mother's words were still echoing in her head. You're in danger, and danger didn't care about pride. Where's this place? She asked. Darius smiled. Beale Street, where your mother used to sing, where it all started. Beale Street's tourist central. It's not safe. The Beale Street you see is tourist central. The Beale Street I run is something else entirely. He gestured toward the door. Come on, I'll show you what your mother's world really looked like. The club didn't have a name on the door, just an address on a side street off Beale where the neon stopped and the real Memphis started. The kind of place tourists walked past without seeing, where the music came up through the floorboards and the air smelled like whiskey and history. Darius led Wren through an unmarked entrance, down stairs that creaked under their feet, into a basement that opened up into something she hadn't expected. It was beautiful, old school beautiful, like stepping into a photograph from 1975. Red velvet curtains, tables with actual candles, A stage with lights that cast everything in warm gold. A piano sat in the corner, polished to a shine. The walls were covered in black and white photos of musicians Wren half recognized, faces from album covers her mother used to own, names she'd heard whispered like prayers. And there, in a frame near the bar, was her mother. Young and radiant, mid-song, eyes closed like she was somewhere else entirely. Wren stopped walking, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She played here every Thursday for 3 years, Darius said quietly. He was standing next to her now, looking at the same photograph. 1976 to 1979. Packed house every time. People used to line up around the block just to hear her sing. I didn't know she was famous. She wasn't, not in the way that gets you on magazine covers, but in the world that mattered, the musicians, the real jazz heads, the people who lived for this, she was legendary. He gestured to a table near the stage. Sit, I'll get Liam here safely. Then we figure out what your mother was trying to tell you. Wren sat because her legs weren't working properly. The chair was old leather, cracked at the edges, the kind of worn-in comfort that came from decades of people sitting in the same spot watching magic happen on stage. A woman appeared from behind the bar, tall, maybe 60, with silver dreads and eyes that saw too much. She set a glass of water in front of Wren without being asked. You're Melody's daughter. It wasn't a question. How did you look just like her. Same eyes. Same way of holding yourself like you're about to run. The woman sat down across from Wren. I'm Diana. I owned this place when your mother was singing here. Still own it, technically, though Darius handles most of the real business now. What kind of business? Diana smiled. The kind that keeps places like this alive when the city wants to turn everything into condos and chain restaurants. The kind that makes sure musicians have somewhere to play that isn't a corporate showcase. The kind your mother believed in. Wren's throat was tight again. Did you know her well? Well enough. She was private, your mama. Didn't talk much about her life outside this club. But when she sang, Diana's expression softened. When she sang, you knew everything about her. Every heartbreak, every joy, every secret she couldn't speak out loud. It was all in the music. Do you know where she might have hidden something? Something valuable? Diana's eyes sharpened. Darius told you about the catalog. He told me Victor's looking for it, that it's worth killing for. Victor's been sniffing around here for 2 years, asking questions, making offers, trying to buy information about your mother. Diana's voice went hard. He sent someone to search this place 6 months ago. Thought I wouldn't notice. I broke the man's arm and sent him back with a message. Stay away from Melody's legacy, or I'd break something that wouldn't heal. And he listened? For a while. But men like Victor don't give up. They just change tactics. She leaned forward. Your mother was smart. She knew people were circling, knew the catalog was valuable, knew it made her dangerous. So she hid it somewhere only someone who really knew her would think to look. The place she felt safest. Where my father proposed. Wren pulled out the journal, showed Diana the entry. Do you know where that was? Diana read it slowly, then shook her head. Your mama never talked about Marcus around me. That part of her life was locked away, but... She paused. There was one place she always went when things got hard. One place she'd disappear to for hours and come back centered. She called it her thinking place. Where? The Peabody. The rooftop garden, specifically. She used to go up there in the mornings before the tourists arrived, sit with a notebook and write. Diana stood. If Marcus proposed anywhere, if she felt safe anywhere outside this club, that'd be my guess. The Peabody Hotel. 5-star, historical, the kind of place that didn't let people wander onto private rooftops without serious money or serious connections. How do I get up there? You don't. Not without help. Diana pulled out her phone. But I know someone who works security. Let me make a call. She walked away, already dialing, leaving Wren alone with her mother's photograph and the ghost of music that had played in this room decades before she was born. The door at the top of the stairs opened. Footsteps descended. Wren tensed, but it was Darius with Liam trailing behind him, backpack slung over one shoulder, expression caught between confused and concerned. Wren? Liam crossed the room fast. What's going on? This guy showed up at school and said you needed me. I'm sorry. I know that's weird, But I needed you somewhere safe, and this is... Ren gestured around. Safe. Liam looked at the club, at the photos on the walls, at their mother's face captured in black and white. His whole expression changed. Is that Mom? Yeah. He moved closer to the photograph, staring like he could pull answers out of the frame. She looks so young, so... He stopped. Happy. She was. Before everything got complicated. Ren stood, showed him the journal. I found this in her things. She left us a message, a clue about where she hid something valuable. Liam read the entry, his lips moving slightly as he processed the words. When he finished, his face was pale. She knew she was going to die. She knew someone was hunting her, hunting what she'd hidden. Ren kept her voice steady. I need to know if she ever told you anything. About Dad, about where he proposed, about anywhere she felt safe. She didn't talk about Dad much, just that he was a musician, that he loved her, that he died too young. Liam's voice cracked slightly. She'd get this look sometimes, like she was seeing something far away. And then she'd play piano, and it'd be the saddest music I ever heard. But no specific places? No mention of the Peabody or... Wait, Liam's eyes lit up. The Peabody. She took me there once. I was maybe 7. We didn't go inside, just stood outside, and she pointed up at the roof and said that was where Dad told her he wanted to spend forever with her. He looked at Ren. I asked if we could go up there, and she said no. That place was just for her now, for remembering. Ren's heart was hammering. The rooftop. She hit it on the rooftop. Or near it, somewhere connected to that memory. Darius had reappeared, Diana next to him. Diana's contact can get us up there tonight, after the hotel quiets down. Midnight, maybe later. That's hours from now, Ren said, which gives us time to plan. Victor knows you didn't sign his contract by now. He'll be watching, waiting for you to make a move. We go in sloppy, he follows us straight to the catalog. Darius sat down at the table. We need to be smart about this. Liam was still staring at the photograph. Is this really where Mom performed, this place? Every Thursday, Diana said. Your mother owned that stage. People would come from all over the South just to hear her sing. I never heard her sing, not like that. Just kids' songs and Christmas carols. Liam's voice was small. Why didn't she tell us? Because she was protecting you. Ren put a hand on his shoulder. Everything she did, walking away from music, hiding the catalog, keeping secrets, it was all to keep us safe. Safe from what? From men like Victor, from people who wanted to own her talent instead of just appreciating it. Darius leaned back in his chair. Your mother understood something most artists never figure out. Once you're successful, you stop belonging to yourself. You belong to everyone who's invested in you. Labels, managers, fans, everyone wants a piece. She decided she'd rather belong to her kids than to an industry that would have eaten her alive. Liam looked at Ren. And now that guy's trying to take what she left us. Yeah. So we stop him. It was so simple the way he said it, so certain, like the world was just a series of problems with clear solutions if you were brave enough to face them. Ren wished she had that kind of clarity. We stop him, she agreed, but you stay here, safe, while Darius and I handle the Peabody. No way. That's not fair. It's not about fair. It's about keeping you alive. Ren's voice came out sharper than she meant. Mom died protecting this secret. I'm not losing you trying to uncover it. You're not losing me because I'm not a kid you can just stick in a corner while you do dangerous stuff. Liam's jaw was set. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You can't stop me. Watch me. Darius held up a hand. Both of you, stop. Fighting about this wastes time we don't have. He looked at Liam. You want to help? Then help. But that means following orders. No heroics, no running off alone. You do exactly what I say when I say it, or you stay here with Diana. Those are the options. Liam glared at him, then at Ren, then reluctantly nodded. Fine, but I'm not staying behind. Then you're back up, Darius said. You stay in the car, keep watch, alert us if anything looks wrong. That's a real job. Important one. Can you handle it? Another reluctant nod. Ren wanted to argue, wanted to lock Liam in this basement club and not let him anywhere near whatever was about to happen. But she also knew that look on his face, stubborn and determined and exactly like their mother's when she'd made up her mind about something. "Okay," Ren said, "but if anything goes wrong, if I tell you to run, you run. No questions. Deal?" "Deal." Diana disappeared into a back room and came back with sandwiches, chips, bottles of water. "Eat, all of you. Whatever happens tonight, it'll go better on a full stomach." Ren hadn't realized she was hungry until food was in front of her. She ate mechanically, tasting nothing, her mind already at the Peabody trying to figure out where her mother would have hidden something she never wanted found. The rooftop was public space during the day. Events, weddings, photo shoots. But at night it was locked, accessible only to hotel security and staff. If her mother had hidden the catalog there, it had to be somewhere permanent, somewhere that wouldn't be disturbed by renovations or events or the passage of time. "What if it's not there?" Ren said suddenly. "What if we're wrong?" "Then we keep looking." Darius was watching her with those steady eyes. "But your mother was deliberate. That journal entry wasn't random. She left you breadcrumbs because she knew eventually you'd need to find what she hid. We followed the trail. And if Victor's already found it?" "He hasn't. If he had, he wouldn't have tried so hard to trap you into that contract. He'd have what he wanted, and you'd be irrelevant." Darius finished his sandwich. "He's desperate. That makes him dangerous, but it also makes him sloppy. We use that." The hours crawled. Ren tried to rest, but couldn't. Liam pulled out his homework and actually did calculus at a table in a jazz club, like this was normal. Diana played old records on a turntable behind the bar. Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, voices that had been singing long before any of them were born. At 11:30, Darius got a text. He read it, nodded, stood. "Time to move." They went out the back exit into an alley that smelled like rain and garbage. A black sedan was waiting, engine running. They climbed in, Darius driving, Ren in the passenger seat, Liam in the back. Downtown Memphis at midnight was quieter than Ren expected. The tourists had retreated to their hotels, the bars were winding down, and the streets belonged to people who actually lived here. The Peabody rose up on Union Avenue, all lit windows and old money elegance. Darius parked 2 blocks away in a garage that looked abandoned but clearly wasn't. Security cameras tracked them the moment they pulled in, and a man appeared from the shadows to take the keys. "Rooftop access in 15 minutes, the man said. "You'll have 20 minutes before the security rotation changes. After that, you're on your own." "Understood," Darius said. He looked at Liam. "You stay with the car. Doors locked. Phone on. If you see anything wrong, cops, Victor's people, anything, you text me and you drive away. Don't wait for us. Just go." "Where would I go?" "Back to Diana's. She'll keep you safe until we get there." Liam didn't look happy, but he nodded. Ren and Darius walked to the Peabody's service entrance. A woman in a security uniform was waiting, stone-faced and professional. "Diana said you're family of Melody Blue." "I'm her daughter," Ren said. The woman's expression softened, just slightly. "Your mother was kind to me when I was starting out in this city, helped me get my first real job. I owe her." She handed Darius a key card. "Rooftop access. You've got 20 minutes. Don't make me regret this." "You won't," Darius said. They took the service elevator up, the numbers climbing, Ren's heart climbing with them. The doors opened on a hallway she didn't recognize, then another door that led to stairs, then finally outside onto the rooftop. The garden was smaller than Ren had imagined. Potted plants, a few benches, string lights that weren't currently on. The Memphis skyline spread out in all directions, and for a moment Ren understood why her mother had loved this place. Up here, the city looked manageable, beautiful, even. "Where do we start?" Ren asked. Darius was already moving, checking behind planters, under benches, running his hands along the brick edges of the rooftop structure. "Somewhere permanent, somewhere that wouldn't be moved or replaced. Think like your mother. Where would she hide something she wanted protected forever?" Ren closed her eyes, trying to imagine her mother up here, young and in love, listening to Marcus propose. Where would she have been standing? What would she have been looking at? Her eyes opened. There, in the corner, almost hidden by a large planter, was a bench. Old iron, ornate, the kind of thing that had been there for decades and would probably be there for decades more. She crossed to it, knelt down, ran her fingers along the underside of the seat, and felt something that didn't belong. A metal box. Small, welded to the frame of the bench like it had always been part of the structure. Darius. He was next to her in seconds. Pulled out a small tool from his jacket, some kind of multi-tool that included bolt cutters. He worked quickly, quietly, until the box came free with a soft scraping sound. It was locked. Old-fashioned padlock, the kind that needed a key. "Can you open it?" Wren asked. "Give me a minute." Darius pulled out what looked like a lockpick, worked the mechanism with hands that knew exactly what they were doing. The lock clicked open. Inside the box was a stack of papers wrapped in plastic, protected from weather and time. Wren pulled them out with shaking hands. On top was a letter in her mother's handwriting. "My darling Wren, if you found this, you're braver than I ever was. These recordings represent everything I couldn't say out loud, every dream I gave up, every version of myself I buried to keep you safe. They're worth money, yes. But more than that, they're proof that I existed as more than just your mother. That once, I was someone with a voice that mattered. The masters are in a safe deposit box at First Tennessee Bank, Box 447. The key is taped to the back of the photograph of you and Liam that I kept on my piano. I never told you because I didn't want this life for you, didn't want you to have to fight the way I fought. But if you're reading this, the fight found you anyway. So fight smart, fight hard, and know that everything I did, every choice, every sacrifice, every secret, was because I loved you more than music, more than fame, more than anything this world could offer. The catalog is yours. Use it to build a life I couldn't. Use it to protect your brother. Use it to show the world that women like us don't disappear just because men like Victor want us to. I'm so proud of you, baby girl. Even though I won't be there to see it, I know you're going to be extraordinary. Love always, Mom." Wren's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the letter. Tears were running down her face, and she didn't care. Darius was quiet beside her, giving her space to break in private. "The bank," Wren managed. She said the bank. "First Tennessee on Union. I know the manager. We can get into the box tomorrow." Darius put a hand on her shoulder, gentle. "You did it. You found what she left you." "Not yet. Not until we actually have the masters. Not until—" The rooftop door slammed open. 3 men stepped out. They weren't hotel security, and they were pointing guns. "Nobody move," the first man said. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that had seen violence and liked it. "Mr. Hale would like a word." Wren's blood went cold. Darius was already moving, putting himself between Wren and the guns. "Tell Victor if he wants to talk, he can come himself. I don't do business with messengers." "He figured you'd say that." The man smiled. It was an ugly thing. "That's why we're not here to talk. We're here to bring the girl back where she belongs." "She doesn't belong anywhere near him. That's not your call anymore." The man gestured with his gun. "Come quietly, both of you, or we do this the hard way. Either option works for us." Wren's mind was racing. They were trapped. The only exit was blocked. Darius was armed. She could see the weight of a gun under his jacket, but 3 against 1 with her caught in the middle were bad odds. "Wren," Darius said quietly, "when I move, you run. Don't look back. Don't wait for me. Just run." "I'm not leaving you." "You are, because that box in your hands is what Victor wants, and you're not giving it to him. Understand?" The lead gunman laughed. Touching, real hero moment, but nobody's running anywhere. Darius's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression changed. "Actually," he said, "I think you'll find that's not quite true." The rooftop flooded with light. Spotlights from the building across the street, blinding and bright and completely unexpected. The gunman turned, confused, trying to see what was happening. Darius grabbed Wren and pulled her behind a planter just as the first shot rang out. Not from the gunman, from above. Wren looked up. On the building across the street, barely visible against the night sky, were more shapes, more people. Darius's people. "You didn't think I'd come here without backup," Darius said. He had his gun out now, returning fire, keeping the gunmen pinned. "When I said 20 minutes, I meant I had people in position for 20 minutes. The gunmen were scrambling for cover. One was down, clutching his shoulder. The other 2 were returning fire, but they were outgunned and outmaneuvered. "Run!" Darius shoved Ren toward the stairs. Now! She ran, legs pumping, heart hammering, the metal box clutched against her chest like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Behind her, the gunfire continued, Darius shouting orders, the men shouting back, everything chaos and violence and too loud. Ren hit the stairs, took them two at a time, nearly fell but caught herself on the railing. Down one flight, two, three. The service elevator was still where they'd left it. She jabbed the button, hands shaking. The doors opened. Victor Hale was inside. Ren froze. Victor smiled. Hello, Ren. I believe you have something that belongs to me. She tried to run. He was faster, grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise, yanked her into the elevator. The doors closed. Scream and I'll hurt you, Victor said pleasantly. Fight and I'll hurt your brother. You saw how easy it was to find him at school. Imagine how easy it would be to make him disappear. Or Ren stopped struggling. You can't just take me. Darius knows. Darius is busy explaining to the police why there's a shootout on the Peabody rooftop. By the time he's done with that conversation, you and I will be long gone. Victor reached for the metal box. Now give me what you found. No. No? He grabbed her wrist, twisted until she gasped. I'm not asking, Ren. Your mother cost me 2 years and more money than you can imagine. I'm not walking away empty-handed. The elevator dinged. Ground floor. The doors opened onto the hotel lobby. Guests were staring. Hotel staff was moving toward them. Victor's grip tightened. Smile and walk with me. Make a scene and I'll tell everyone you're a junkie ex-girlfriend I'm trying to help. Security will side with me. I own half of them. And then I'll make good on my promise about your brother. Ren's mind was blank. She couldn't think, couldn't plan, couldn't see a way out that didn't end with Liam in danger. She smiled. Let Victor guide her through the lobby toward the front entrance. They were almost to the doors when Liam stepped in front of them. Let her go. Victor stopped. Actually looked surprised. You must be the brother. Brave. Stupid, but brave. I said let her go. Liam's hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. Or what? You'll call for help? Fight me? You're 15 years old and 90 pounds. Get out of my way before I... Liam threw the coffee in his hand straight into Victor's face. Victor screamed, Let go of Ren, staggered back, clutching his eyes. Run! Liam grabbed Ren's hand. They ran. Through the lobby, out the front doors, down Union Avenue while Victor's shouts echoed behind them. Ren could hear security yelling, people running, chaos spreading. The black sedan screeched around the corner. Darius was driving, blood on his shoulder, but his eyes sharp. Get in! Ren and Liam dove into the back seat. The car was moving before the doors were even closed. Are you hurt? Darius was looking at them in the rear-view mirror. I'm fine, Ren gasped. How did you... I told you. Back up. My people cleared the rooftop and I got out while the cops were busy. Liam texted me that Victor was in the lobby. He looked at Liam. Good work. Liam was pale and shaking. I didn't know what else to do. I just saw him grab her and I... You did perfect. Ren pulled him into a hug. You absolute idiot. Perfect idiot. You have the box? Darius asked. Ren held it up. Still intact, still hers. Then we won, Darius said. We have the location of the catalog. Victor has nothing but a hotel security bill and a lot of explaining to do. He turned the car toward Diana's club. Tomorrow we get the masters from the bank. Tomorrow we end this. Ren leaned back in the seat, Liam pressed against her side, the metal box heavy in her lap. They'd won this round. But Victor wasn't done. She could feel it. Men like him didn't lose and walk away. They lost and came back harder. Tomorrow they'd get the catalog. Tomorrow they'd figure out how to use it. Tonight they'd survived. And for now, that was enough. They didn't go back to the apartment in Midtown. Darius drove them to a house on the outskirts of Memphis, past the parts of the city tourists saw, into neighborhoods where the streets had names instead of numbers, and the houses sat back from the road behind gates and old trees. The place was quiet, anonymous, the kind of safe house that didn't look like one until you noticed the cameras hidden in the eaves and the way every window had reinforced glass. Inside, Diana was waiting with a first aid kit and a bottle of bourbon that looked older than Ren. Let me see that shoulder, she said to Darius. It's nothing. It's bleeding through your jacket. Sit down. He sat. Diana worked efficiently, cutting away fabric, cleaning the wound. The bullet had grazed him, deep enough to need stitches, but not deep enough to hit anything vital. Darius didn't flinch while she worked, just stared at the wall like pain was something that happened to other people. Liam had gone pale, watching. Ren put a hand on his arm. "Why don't you find the kitchen? Get some water?" He nodded, grateful for an excuse to leave, and disappeared down the hallway. Diana finished the stitches, bandaged Darius's shoulder, then poured 3 glasses of bourbon without asking if anyone wanted it. "To surviving Victor Hale," she said, raising her glass. Ren drank. The bourbon burned going down, sharp and warm and grounding. She set the glass down harder than she meant to. "He's not going to stop." "No," Darius agreed. "He's not." "So what do we do? Hide here forever? Wait for him to find us anyway?" "We finish what your mother started." Darius stood, moving to a desk in the corner where he'd set the metal box. He opened it carefully, pulled out the papers inside. "Your mother said the masters are in a safe deposit box. First Tennessee Bank, box 447. The keys taped to the back of a photograph." "The piano," Ren said. "She kept a framed photo of me and Liam on top of her piano. I took it when we moved. It's in the apartment. Then we get it, tonight, before Victor thinks to look there. He probably has people watching the building." "Probably, which is why you're not going. I am." Darius was already pulling out his phone. "I'll send someone I trust. They'll be in and out before Victor's people even notice. What if the photo's not there anymore? What if I threw it out or lost it or... Then we break into the bank vault the hard way, but let's try the easy option first." He made the call, spoke in low tones Ren couldn't quite hear, then hung up. "Done. We'll have the key in 2 hours." Ren sat down heavily. Her whole body was shaking now that the adrenaline was fading, leaving her hollow and exhausted. Everything hurt. Her wrist where Victor had grabbed her legs from running, her chest from breathing too fast for too long. "I need to know something," she said. "Christina Morales. The woman Victor killed. Did you really know her, or were you just using her as an example to scare me?" Darius was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone again, scrolled, showed Ren a photograph. Christina smiling in a park with a little girl on her shoulders. "That's her niece, Sophia. 6 years old when Christina disappeared. She keeps asking when her aunt's coming home." His voice was flat. "I knew Christina. Not well, but enough. She worked at a preschool where my sister's kids went. She was kind, normal. The kind of person who didn't deserve what happened to her." "Why didn't you stop him then, if you knew what he was doing?" "Because I didn't know until it was too late. By the time I started connecting the pieces, she'd already been gone for 3 months, and the trail was cold. Victor's good at making people vanish without leaving evidence." Darius put his phone away. "I've been watching him for 3 years, waiting for him to make a mistake. When I heard he was targeting you, I knew I had a second chance. I wasn't going to waste it. So you used me as bait. I used you as a way to stop a predator from killing again. There's a difference." "Is there?" Ren stood. "You put me and Liam in danger. Victor put you in danger the moment he decided he wanted your mother's catalog. I just made sure you didn't face it alone." Darius's eyes were hard now. "You can hate me for that if you want, but we're in this together now, whether you like it or not. Victor won't stop until he has what he wants, or he's dead. Those are the only 2 endings to this story. Then we make sure he's the one who ends up dead." The word surprised Ren as much as they clearly surprised Darius. She'd never said anything like that before, never thought she was capable of meaning it. But standing there in a safe house with Diana's stitches holding Darius together and Liam somewhere down the hall trying not to fall apart, she meant it completely. Victor had killed her mother, had tried to trap her, had threatened Liam, had destroyed Christina, and probably others Ren would never know about. He didn't get to walk away from that. "Careful," Diana said quietly. "That kind of thinking changes you, hardens you into something you might not recognize later." "Good. Maybe I need to be harder." Ren looked at both of them. "My whole life I've been soft, accommodating, taking care of everyone else, letting people walk over me because fighting back seemed too hard. And where did it get me? Broke, evicted, almost sold into a contract with a killer." She picked up the bourbon, drank the rest in one swallow. "I'm done being soft." Liam appeared in the doorway, 3 bottles of water in his hands. "I'm not drinking bourbon, but I found these." "Good choice," Diana said, taking one. Your sister's having a moment. Let her finish. Liam looked at Ren. You okay? No, but I'm going to be. Ren crossed to him, took one of the water bottles. Tomorrow, we get the catalog. Then we figure out how to use it to destroy Victor completely. No half measures, no mercy. We end this. How? Liam's voice was small. He's rich. He's connected. He owns people. How do we even... We expose him, Darius said. Victor's power comes from secrecy, from appearing legitimate while running operations in the shadows. We drag everything into the light. The smuggling, the corruption, Christina's disappearance, your mother's murder. We make it impossible for him to hide. How do we prove any of it? Ren asked. You said yourself there's no evidence. There's always evidence. It's just a matter of knowing where to look. Darius moved to a laptop on the desk, opened it, started typing. Victor's been careful, but he's not perfect. He has business partners, employees, people who've helped him cover his crimes. Some of them will talk if properly motivated. Motivated how? Money, immunity, protection, whatever they need to feel safe enough to betray him. Darius pulled up files, spreadsheets, documents Ren didn't understand. I've been building a case against him for 3 years. I have fragments, shipping records that don't add up, payments to officials that look suspicious, timelines that suggest Christina didn't leave Memphis willingly. But fragments aren't enough. I need something concrete, something that proves he's more than just a businessman with questionable ethics. The catalog, Ren said suddenly. My mother's catalog. If Victor's been hunting it for 2 years, spending money, calling in favors, threatening people, there's a trail. A record of him trying to acquire it through illegal means. Exactly. And once we have the masters, once we can prove they exist and demonstrate their value, his entire pursuit of them becomes evidence of intent. Darius leaned back. But we need more. We need someone who worked with him, someone who knows where the bodies are buried, literally in Christina's case. Diana had been quiet, listening. Now she spoke. Thomas Reeve. Darius's head snapped toward her. What about him? He used to work for Victor. Head of security, maybe 5 years ago. They had a falling out over something. I never got the full story. And Thomas walked away. He's been running a private investigation firm ever since, taking cases from people Victor screwed over. Diana poured herself more bourbon. If anyone has dirt on Victor, it's Thomas. But why haven't you mentioned him before? Because Thomas doesn't talk to people like you. He hates criminals almost as much as he hates Victor. You walk into his office, he'll throw you out before you finish a sentence. Diana looked at Ren. But you? A woman whose mother was murdered? A kid trying to protect her brother? He might listen to that. Ren's stomach turned. You want me to convince a private investigator to help us take down Victor? I want you to tell him the truth. Show him what you found. Let him see that Victor's still out there destroying lives. Diana's expression was serious. Thomas is a good man who got broken by bad ones. He'll help if he believes it's the right thing to do. And helping you, that's about as right as it gets. Darius was already typing, pulling up information on Thomas Reeve. Former military, former police, now running a one-man operation out of an office in Germantown. No criminal record, no connections to Victor's network. Clean, as far as anyone could tell. I'll set up a meeting, Darius said. Tomorrow morning, before we go to the bank. What if he says no? Then we find another way. But Diana's right. Thomas hates Victor. And he has resources we don't. Access to law enforcement, connections to people who can actually arrest Victor instead of just fighting him in the shadows. Darius closed the laptop. It's worth a shot. The hours between midnight and dawn were the longest of Ren's life. She tried to sleep in a bedroom upstairs but couldn't shut her mind off long enough. Kept seeing Victor's face. Kept hearing her mother's voice in that journal entry. Kept replaying the moment Liam had thrown coffee at a man twice his size to save her. Around 4 a.m, she gave up and went downstairs. Liam was asleep on the couch, still in his clothes, one arm thrown over his eyes like he was trying to block out the world. Ren sat in the chair across from him and just watched him breathe, making sure he was real and safe and still here. Diana appeared from the kitchen with 2 mugs of coffee. Couldn't sleep either. No. Ren took the offered mug. Does it get easier? This feeling like the world's about to collapse? Not easier. You just get better at functioning while it's collapsing. Diana sat down. Your mother felt it too, that weight. She carried it every day, knowing people wanted what she had, knowing she couldn't trust anyone completely. It wore her down. Is that why she gave up music? Because she was tired? That's why she chose you instead. Music was her first love, but you and Liam were her real love, the kind worth sacrificing for. Diana sipped her coffee. She used to say that singing for strangers was easy. Raising kids who didn't hate her for the life she'd given them, that was the real performance. Did she ever regret it, giving it all up? Every artist regrets the work they don't make, the songs they don't sing, the performances they walk away from. Diana's voice was soft. But I don't think she regretted choosing you, not once, even when things got hard, even when she knew Victor was circling. She'd look at you and Liam and say it was worth it, every single piece. Ren's throat was tight. I wish I could ask her about all this, about the catalog, about Dad, about what she wanted me to do with any of it. You already know what she wanted. She wrote it in that letter. Use it to build a life she couldn't. Use it to protect your brother. Use it to show the world that women like you don't disappear just because men like Victor want you to. Diana leaned forward. That's not a mystery, Ren. That's a mission. Darius came down the stairs at 6, fresh shirt covering his bandaged shoulder, looking like he hadn't been shot 12 hours ago. He had a photograph in his hand, the one from Ren's apartment, the frame cracked, but the picture intact. Your living room's clear, he said, handing it to Ren. Victor hasn't moved on the apartment yet. My guy got in and out without trouble. Ren turned the frame over. Taped to the back, exactly where her mother said it would be, was a small brass key. Box 447. She pulled it free, held it up to the light. It was so small, so ordinary, the kind of key that could be lost in a junk drawer or thrown away by accident, and it was worth millions. Thomas Reeve agreed to meet us at 8, Darius said. His office in Germantown. He said he'll give us 15 minutes. That's not much time. Then we make it count. Thomas Reeve's office was in a building that looked like it used to be something else, maybe a restaurant, maybe a shop, before being converted into professional space that still felt vaguely temporary. The sign on the door said Reeve Investigations in letters that had seen better days. Inside the office was exactly what Ren expected from a former cop gone private. File cabinets, a desk covered in paperwork, coffee mugs that needed washing, and a man who looked like he'd been through a war and barely survived. Thomas Reeve was maybe 50, white, with gray hair cut military short and scars on his knuckles that said he'd thrown plenty of punches in his time. When he looked at Darius, his expression went cold. I said 15 minutes, not for him. He pointed at Darius. Just her. Thomas? Diana started. No, I don't work with criminals. I don't care what sob story you're selling. Thomas's eyes were hard. She wants to talk, fine. He waits outside. Darius looked like he wanted to argue. Ren put a hand on his arm. It's okay. I can do this. Darius studied her face for a moment, then nodded. I'll be right outside. He left. Thomas gestured to a chair across from his desk. Sit. Talk. Make it fast. Ren sat, opened the metal box she'd brought with her, pulled out her mother's letter and the papers underneath. Documents about the catalog, about Victor's pursuit of it, about everything that had led to this moment. My name is Ren Calder. My mother was Melody Blue. Victor Hale killed her 2 years ago to try to access recordings she'd hidden. Now he's trying to trap me into a marriage contract to get legal access to them. She pushed the papers across the desk. I need help proving what he did. To my mother, to a woman named Christina Morales, to however many others we don't even know about. Thomas picked up the papers, read them slowly, his expression unchanging. When he finished, he set them down and looked at Ren like he was measuring her worth. Victor Hale is untouchable, connected to everyone who matters in this city. You go after him, you better be ready for a war you can't win. I'm already in a war I didn't ask for. I'm just trying to survive it. By working with Darius Knox, a man who runs half the illegal operations in Memphis? By working with the only person who was willing to help me when Victor tried to destroy my life. Ren leaned forward. I don't care if Darius is a criminal. I care that my mother's dead, and the man who killed her is still walking around like he owns the world. If you can help me stop him, I'll work with anyone, including you." Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a file. Thick, worn, clearly well used. Christina Morales. I worked her case when her family hired me 3 years ago. Followed every lead, interviewed everyone who knew her, tracked her movements up until the day she disappeared. He opened the file, showed Ren photographs, reports, timelines. She didn't run away. She didn't leave the country. She died, and Victor Hale covered it up so thoroughly that I couldn't prove it. But you believe it. I know it. I just can't make it stick in court. Victor's got alibis, witnesses, documentation that places him nowhere near Christina when she vanished. He's careful, meticulous, the kind of criminal who plans 3 steps ahead and covers his tracks as he goes. What about the marriage contract, the one Christina signed? Sealed. Part of a legal settlement that makes it inaccessible without a court order I can't get. Thomas leaned back. I've been trying to bring Victor down for 3 years. I've got pieces. Suspicious deaths connected to his business, money trails that don't add up, people who are too scared to talk. But pieces don't convict. I need something solid, something that proves intent and opportunity and connects him directly to a crime. The catalog, Ren said. He's been hunting my mother's recordings for 2 years. He's bribed people, threatened people, destroyed my life trying to get access. That's a trail. That's evidence of criminal behavior. It's evidence of aggressive business tactics, not murder. What if I can prove my mother's death wasn't an accident? What if I can show that her brake line was cut and Victor had motive to kill her? Thomas's expression changed, sharpened. Can you? I don't know yet, but I'm going to try. Ren pulled out the bank key. This opens a safe deposit box that contains the masters. Once I have them, once I can prove their value, Victor's entire pursuit becomes relevant. His threats, his manipulation, everything. And what do you want from me? Help. Evidence. Connections to people who can actually arrest him instead of just fighting him in the shadows. Ren met his eyes. Diana said you're a good man who got broken by bad ones. I'm not asking you to trust Darius. I'm asking you to trust that I'm telling the truth and that together we might actually be able to stop Victor before he kills someone else. Thomas studied her. Ren could feel him weighing her words, her story, her intentions. Finally, he spoke. I'll help, but I have conditions. Name them. 1. Darius Knox stays out of the official investigation. Whatever he's done to help you, it ends when we bring this to law enforcement. I won't let a criminal take credit for bringing down another criminal. Agreed. 2. Everything you find, everything you learn, you share with me. No holding back information because it might implicate Knox or anyone else. If we're doing this, we're doing it clean. Agreed. 3. If this goes sideways, if Victor comes after you or your brother, you come to me. Not Knox, not Diana. Me. I'll keep you safe through legal channels, not criminal ones. Ren hesitated. That one was harder. Darius had already proven he could protect her, proven he was willing to bleed for her. Trusting a stranger, even a well-meaning one, felt like a gamble. But Thomas was right. If they were going to take Victor down, it had to be through legal means, through evidence and trials and justice that couldn't be bought or buried. Agreed, she said. Thomas stood, extended his hand. Ren shook it. First Tennessee Bank, Thomas said. When are you planning to access the box? Today, as soon as the bank opens. I'm coming with you. We document everything. The contents, the condition, the chain of custody. If this catalog is going to be evidence, we do it right from the start. Victor's going to be watching the bank. He knows I found the letter. He knows where the masters are. Let him watch. He makes a move on bank property. He's committed a crime in front of witnesses. That's exactly the kind of mistake we need him to make. Thomas grabbed his jacket. Let's go get your mother's legacy back. Outside, Darius was leaning against the car, arms crossed. When he saw Ren and Thomas together, his expression was unreadable. He's helping, Ren said. But we do this his way. Legal, official, no shortcuts. I don't take shortcuts, Thomas said flatly. I take evidence that holds up in court and criminals who go to prison. If you've got a problem with that, Knox, you can walk away now. No problem, Darius said. As long as Victor ends up in a cell, I don't care how we get him there. The two men stared at each other. Old hostility, old distrust, crackling in the air between them. Diana stepped out of the car. Both of you stop measuring and get in. We've got a bank to visit and a catalog to claim before Victor realizes we're about to ruin his whole life. They climbed into the car. Thomas in the front passenger seat, Wren and Diana in the back. Liam had stayed at the safe house with one of Darius's people, under strict orders not to leave for any reason. The drive to First Tennessee Bank felt too short and too long at the same time. Wren kept running through scenarios in her head, Victor waiting inside, Victor blocking the vault, Victor with police he owned arresting her for theft before she could prove the catalog was rightfully hers. But when they arrived, the bank was quiet. Normal. Just another Tuesday morning with tellers helping customers and Muzak playing over speakers that had probably been installed in the 90s. Thomas handled the paperwork, showing identification and explaining that they needed to access a box belonging to a deceased individual whose daughter had the key and legal right of access. The bank manager, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, checked the records, verified the information, and led them down to the vault. Box 447 was small, innocuous, just another metal rectangle in a wall of metal rectangles. Wren's hands shook as she inserted the key. The lock turned. The door opened. Inside was a metal container about the size of a shoebox. Wren lifted it out carefully, like it might shatter. "Open it," Thomas said quietly. Wren opened it. Inside were 10 reel-to-reel tapes, each carefully labeled in her mother's handwriting. Song titles Wren didn't recognize, dates from 1981, and a note card on top of them all that said simply, "For my children. Use this to build something beautiful." Wren's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe, couldn't process that she was holding her mother's voice, her mother's talent, her mother's dreams all contained in magnetic tape that had been hidden for decades. "Take photographs," Thomas said. He was already pulling out his phone. "Document everything, the box, the tapes, the labels. Chain of custody starts now." He photographed it all while Wren just held the container, feeling the weight of her mother's legacy in her hands. "This is it," Diana whispered. "This is what she gave up everything to protect." Darius was watching the vault entrance, his body tense, ready for violence that hadn't come yet. "We need to move," he said. "Get the tapes somewhere safe before Victor realizes we have them." "Agreed." Thomas finished photographing. "I have a secure facility where we can store them. Climate-controlled, 24-hour security, legal documentation of everything. Nothing happens to these tapes without a paper trail." They packed everything back into the metal container. The bank manager helped them sign the necessary paperwork, transferring the box contents to Thomas's custody, with Wren as the legal owner. It was all very official, very documented, very legitimate, which was probably why Victor didn't make his move at the bank. He made it in the parking lot. 3 cars surrounded them the moment they stepped outside. Men emerged, not the ones from the Peabody, but others, fresh and ready for violence. And in the center of them all, standing next to a black Mercedes like he owned the whole parking lot, was Victor Hale. "Wren," he called out. His voice was pleasant, conversational, like they were old friends running into each other by chance. "I think you have something that belongs to me." Thomas stepped in front of her. "Back off, Hale. You're on camera. Make a move and I'll have you arrested before you make it to your car." Victor smiled. "Thomas Reeve, still playing hero for lost causes. How's that working out for you?" "Better than playing predator for profit, which, by the way, I have documented extensively." Thomas held up his phone. "Every word you say right now is being recorded. Every threat, every move. You want to dig your hole deeper, go ahead." Victor's smile didn't waver, but something in his eyes went cold. "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm simply asking Wren to return property that was stolen from me." "The catalog belonged to my mother," Wren said. Her voice was steadier than she expected. "She created it. She hid it. She left it to me. You have no claim to it. I have 2 years of investment trying to locate it. I have business agreements with people who expect results. I have—" Victor stopped himself, smiled wider. "I have patience, and resources, and time. All things you don't have, Wren. So why don't we make this easy? Hand over the tapes, I'll forgive your recent behavior, and we'll go our separate ways. No. The word hung in the air. Victor's expression didn't change, but the men around him shifted, hands moving to weapons concealed under jackets, ready for an order. Last chance, Victor said quietly. She said no. Darius moved to stand next to Thomas. And you're not stupid enough to start a shootout in a bank parking lot in broad daylight with witnesses everywhere. Who said anything about a shootout? Victor pulled out his phone, made a call. Hello? Yes, I'd like to report a theft in progress. First Tennessee Bank on Union Avenue. The suspects are armed and dangerous. They've just robbed a safe deposit box and are attempting to flee. Please send officers immediately. He hung up. See? No violence necessary. The police will handle this. And since I happen to know the responding officers quite well, I suspect they'll be very interested in hearing about how you broke into a bank vault and stole property that doesn't belong to you. Victor's smile was vicious now. Should make for an interesting conversation, especially when they search your vehicle and find those tapes, which will then be held as evidence, which means they'll be in my custody by the end of the day. Wren's blood went cold. He'd planned this, every step. He'd known they'd go to the bank, known they'd access the box, known exactly how to use the law against them. But Thomas was smiling. That's a bold play, Victor. Problem is, everything we just did was completely legal. Bank manager can verify. Security footage can verify. And these tapes? He held up the metal container. They're being transferred to a secure evidence locker as part of an ongoing investigation into multiple homicides connected to your business operations, including Christina Morales and Melody Blue. Victor's smile slipped, just for a second. You have no proof of any homicides. Not yet, but I have suspicious deaths, forged documents, witness statements, and now, thanks to your little performance just now, recorded evidence of you attempting to steal property from a murder victim's daughter. Thomas's voice was hard. The police are coming. Good. Let's have that conversation. I've been waiting 3 years to have it with someone besides your bought cops. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Victor's men were looking at him, waiting for orders. But Victor was calculating now, running scenarios, trying to figure out if he could still control this. The police cars pulled into the parking lot. 4 of them. 8 officers emerging, hands on weapons, assessing the scene. Thomas walked toward them, badge held high. Thomas Reeve, private investigator. I'm the one who called this in. There's been a threat against my client by this man. He pointed at Victor. I have everything recorded. I need someone to take statements and secure evidence. The lead officer looked at Victor, then at Thomas, then at Wren standing there holding a metal box like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Someone want to explain what's happening here? And just like that, the moment crystallized. Victor surrounded by his men, Thomas with his badge and his recording and his evidence, Wren with her mother's legacy in her hands, all of it out in the open where it couldn't be buried anymore. I'd like to file a complaint, Wren said. Her voice was clear, strong. Against Victor Hale, for harassment, for attempted theft, and for the murder of my mother, Melody Blue. The words hung in the morning air while the police officers exchanged glances, and Victor's face went carefully blank, and Thomas smiled like this was exactly the opening he'd been waiting for. The war was just beginning, but for the first time since this all started, Wren wasn't afraid of it. The police station smelled like burned coffee and institutional cleaning supplies, the kind of smell that settled into your clothes and stayed there for hours. Wren sat in a hard plastic chair in an interview room that was too cold, giving her statement for the 3rd time to a detective who looked like he'd heard every lie ever told and wasn't particularly interested in the truth. So let me get this straight, Detective Morrison said, flipping through his notes. You're claiming that Victor Hale, a prominent businessman and philanthropist, murdered your mother 2 years ago to gain access to recordings worth millions that he somehow knew existed despite your mother living as a piano teacher in a neighborhood where nobody knew about her past. That's exactly what I'm saying. And your evidence for this is a journal entry and the fact that he tried to get you to sign a marriage contract. And the brake line on my mother's car being cut, and Christina Morales disappearing after signing a similar contract, and 2 years of him systematically destroying my life to force me into a position where I had no choice but to sign. Wren's hands were clenched in her lap. How much more evidence do you need? Morrison set down his pen. Physical evidence, something that ties Victor Hale directly to your mother's death or to Christina Morales. Not circumstantial connections and suspicious timing. The brake line was ruled mechanical failure. The investigation was closed. Unless you have new evidence that proves tampering, that ruling stands. What if I can get you that evidence? Morrison looked tired. Then bring it to me and we'll reopen the investigation. But right now, all I have is your word against a man with more lawyers than I have years on the force. That's not a fight I can win without something solid. Thomas appeared in the doorway. Detective, can I have a moment with my client? Morrison stood, clearly relieved. 5 minutes. He left. Thomas sat down across from Wren. They're not going to arrest him, Wren said. It wasn't a question. Not yet. Victor's got alibis, documentation, and enough legal firepower to bury this complaint before it goes anywhere. Thomas leaned forward. But Morrison's honest. He doesn't like Victor, doesn't trust him, and he'll investigate if we give him something real. The problem is we don't have something real yet. The catalog proves Victor wanted it, doesn't prove he killed for it. We need more. Thomas pulled out his phone, showed Wren a text. I've got a forensic specialist who owes me a favor. He's willing to take another look at your mother's car. It's been 2 years, but if the brake line was cut, there might still be evidence of it. The car was totaled, sold for scrap. Scrap yards keep records. We find the yard, we find the car, or what's left of it, we might find proof. Thomas's expression was grim. It's a long shot, but it's the shot we have. How long will that take? Days, maybe a week. We don't have a week. Victor's not going to wait around while we build a case. He's going to come after me, after Liam, after anyone who can connect him to this. Which is why you're going somewhere he can't reach you. Thomas stood. I've arranged protective custody. You and your brother. Safe house, 24-hour security, everything documented through official channels. I'm not hiding. You're not hiding. You're staying alive long enough for me to prove what Victor did. Thomas's voice was firm. This is the part where you trust me, where you let the system work instead of trying to fight a war you can't win on your own. Wren wanted to argue, wanted to say she could handle it, that she'd come this far and wasn't backing down now. But the exhaustion was catching up with her. The fear, the reality that Victor had resources she couldn't match and connections she couldn't break. Okay, she said quietly, but I want to do one thing first. What? I want to expose him, publicly, before he can spin this into something else. Wren looked at Thomas. He's being honored at some gala this weekend. Big charity event, all of Memphis society. What if I crashed it? What if I stood up in front of everyone and told them exactly what he is? Thomas was already shaking his head. That's not evidence. That's grandstanding, and it gives Victor exactly what he needs to paint you as unstable, vindictive, lying for attention. Or it puts him in a position where he has to respond, where he can't hide behind lawyers and documentation, where people see him for what he is. Wren stood. My mother's music deserves to be heard. Her story deserves to be told, and I'm not going to let Victor Hale write the ending to it. You do this. You lose any sympathy you have. You become the crazy woman making accusations she can't prove. Then I better make sure I can prove them. Wren pulled out her phone, opened the recording app. I've been recording every interaction with Victor since the day I walked into his office. Every threat, every manipulation, every word, that's evidence. That's his voice saying things he can't explain away. Thomas's expression changed. You recorded him? I recorded everything, the contract meeting, the confrontation at the Peabody, the parking lot this morning, all of it. She showed him the files, hours of audio. Is that enough to prove intent? Thomas grabbed her phone, started scrolling through the recordings. His face was grim as he listened to snippets, Victor's voice smooth and menacing, making threats sound like friendly advice. This is good, he said, finally. This is really good. But you can't just play these at a gala. You need to enter them as evidence, get them authenticated, make sure they're admissible in court. I don't care about admissible. I care about people hearing them, about Memphis knowing what Victor Hale really is before he destroys anyone else. Wren took her phone back. You handle the legal side, build your case, get your evidence. But I'm going to that gala, and I'm going to make sure Victor's reputation dies the same night. Diana was waiting in the lobby when Wren and Thomas emerged from the interview room. Darius was with her, looking like he wanted to put his fist through something but was exercising impressive restraint. "They're letting Victor walk," Diana said. "Not a question." "For now," Thomas said. "But we're building a case. It's going to take time." "How much time?" "As much as it takes to do it right." Darius made a sound that might have been a laugh or a curse. "Meanwhile, Victor's out there planning his next move. You want Ren and Liam to just sit tight and hope he doesn't get to them first? I want them in protective custody where they're safe and documented, and Victor can't touch them without committing a crime so obvious even his bot cops can't ignore it." Thomas looked at Darius. "Unless you've got a better plan." "I've got several plans. Most of them involve Victor disappearing permanently." "Then it's a good thing you're not in charge." The two men stared at each other again, all that old hostility rising like heat. Ren stepped between them. "Stop, both of you. We're on the same side here." "Are we?" Darius's eyes didn't leave Thomas. "Because my side involves keeping you alive. His side involves paperwork and process and hoping the system works before Victor kills you." "My side involves justice," Thomas shot back. "Something you wouldn't recognize if it arrested you." "Enough!" Diana's voice cracked like a whip. "Ren's right. You're on the same side whether you like it or not. So either figure out how to work together or get out of the way and let her handle this herself." Silence. Tense and uncomfortable. Finally, Darius spoke. "The gala. Victor's being honored this Saturday at the Orpheum. Black tie event. 500 people. Cameras everywhere. If you're going to make a move, that's the place." "I'm going," Ren said. "I'm going to stand up in front of everyone and play the recordings. I'm going to tell them what he did to my mother, to Christina, to me. And I'm going to make sure his name is poison by the time the night's over." "That's suicide," Thomas said flatly. "It's exposure. It's the one thing Victor can't control, public opinion. He can buy cops and lawyers and judges, but he can't buy back a reputation once it's destroyed." Ren looked at all of them. "I'm doing this, with your help or without it. But I'm doing it." Diana smiled. "Then we better make sure you do it right. You're going to need a dress." The next 3 days were a blur of preparation that felt surreal in its normalcy. Diana took Ren shopping for a gown, not expensive, but elegant enough to blend in at an event where tickets started at $500. Black silk, simple lines, the kind of dress that said she belonged there even though she'd never been to a charity gala in her life. Thomas worked the legal angle, authenticating the recordings, building timelines, connecting dots between Victor's business operations and the crimes Ren was accusing him of. He found the scrapyard where her mother's car had ended up, found the vehicle still partially intact, and got his forensic specialist to examine the brake line. It was cut, the specialist confirmed over a grainy video call that Thomas set up in the safe house. Clean cut, professional job, made to look like wear and tear. But under magnification you can see tool marks. Someone knew what they were doing. "Can you testify to that?" Thomas asked. "In court?" "Absolutely. It'll take time to prepare a full report, but this is definitely evidence of tampering. It was the first piece of real proof, the first thing that connected Victor directly to Melody's death." Thomas filed for the investigation to be reopened, citing new evidence and expert testimony. Victor's lawyers responded within hours with motions to dismiss, challenges to the specialist's credentials, demands for independent analysis. The legal battle was already starting, and it hadn't even reached a courtroom yet. But that didn't matter, because Ren wasn't fighting in courtrooms anymore. She was fighting in public, where Victor's money couldn't protect him. Darius spent those 3 days doing what he did best, gathering information, pulling strings, making sure Ren would have what she needed when the moment came. He got her a ticket to the gala through channels he didn't explain. He arranged for the audio system to be accessible, for the recordings to be loaded onto a device that couldn't be traced back to Ren until after she'd already played them. He made sure every angle was covered. "You get one shot at this," he told her the night before the gala. They were in the safe house, Liam asleep upstairs, Diana and Thomas having left to handle their own preparations. "Victor's going to be ready. He knows you're angry. He knows you might try something. So whatever you do it fast and you do it loud, and you make sure there's no way he can shut you down before everyone hears." "I know." "And after you do it, after you expose him and everyone knows what he is, you run. You get out of that building as fast as you can because Victor's going to come after you. Legally, physically, every way he can. You need to be somewhere he can't reach. Where? Darius pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, plane tickets, passport, paperwork for Liam. Mexico City. I have people there. Safe house, protection, everything you need until this settles down and Thomas can bring charges that stick. You want me to flee the country. I want you alive. Everything else is secondary. Wren looked at the tickets. At the escape route Darius had built for her without asking if she wanted it. What about you? What about me? If I run to Mexico, if I leave you here to deal with the fallout, I can handle Victor. I've been handling men like him my whole life. Darius's expression was unreadable. Your job is to protect your brother and stay alive. My job is to make sure Victor pays for what he did. We both do our jobs, everyone wins. Except you might end up dead or in prison. Might, but that's not your problem. He pushed the folder toward her. Take the tickets. Use them if you need to. And know that whatever happens after tomorrow night, you did the right thing. Your mother would be proud. Wren wanted to argue, wanted to say she wouldn't run, that she'd stay and fight and see this through to the end. But Liam was asleep upstairs, trusting her to keep him safe, and running started to sound less like cowardice and more like survival. Okay, she said, I'll take them. The Orpheum Theater was built in 1928, all gilded edges and crystal chandeliers and the kind of old-world glamour that Memphis had mostly forgotten how to do. Tonight it was packed with 500 people in tuxedos and gowns, drinking champagne and pretending they cared about the charity being honored when, really, they just wanted to be seen in the right place with the right people. Wren walked in with her head high and her heart hammering, clutching a small purse that contained nothing but her phone and the recording device Darius had given her. Diana had done her makeup, pulling her hair back in a way that made her look older, more sophisticated, less like a woman who'd been sleeping in safe houses and running from killers. Victor was on the stage already, standing next to the mayor and the charity director, smiling for cameras that flashed like lightning. He looked exactly like what he was pretending to be, a pillar of the community, a generous philanthropist, a man who made Memphis better through his presence. Wren's stomach turned. She found a seat near the back, not drawing attention, just another face in the crowd. The ceremony started, speeches about Victor's contributions, his generosity, his vision for Memphis's future. People applauded. Some of them probably even believed it. Wren waited. The mayor stepped up to present Victor with some kind of crystal award that probably cost more than Wren's mother's funeral. The applause was deafening. And then Wren stood up. "Excuse me," she said. Her voice was too quiet to carry over the applause. She said it louder. "Excuse me." The applause faltered, heads turned, people staring at the woman in the black dress who was standing up in the middle of a ceremony. Security started moving toward her, but Wren was already pulling out the recording device, already connecting it to her phone, already hitting play on the audio file she'd queued up. Victor's voice filled the theater through her phone's speaker, tinny but clear enough to be understood. Your mother had secrets, and now those secrets are yours. Sign the contract, Wren. Save your brother. In 1 year you'll be free and wealthy, or don't sign and watch everything collapse. People went quiet, really quiet, the kind of silence where you could hear breathing. Wren kept the recording playing, moved to the next file. Victor's voice again, this time from the parking lot confrontation. I have patience, and resources, and time. All things you don't have, Wren. The security guards had stopped moving. Everyone was listening now. Wren walked toward the stage, holding her phone high. The next recording was clearer, more damning. Victor talking about Christina Morales, about making problems disappear, about business being business, and people being expendable. What is this? The mayor demanded. This is the truth about the man you're honoring. Wren's voice carried now, steady and strong. Victor Hale murdered my mother 2 years ago to access recordings she'd hidden. He tried to trap me into a marriage contract to get legal rights to them. And when that didn't work, he threatened my 15-year-old brother. Victor's face had gone white. This is slander. She's lying. I'm not lying. I have evidence, recordings of you making threats, forensic proof that my mother's brake line was cut, documentation of you pursuing her catalog for 2 years before her death. Wren climbed the stairs to the stage. Security moved to stop her, but Thomas was suddenly there, badge out, creating space. "Let her speak," Thomas said to the guards. "She has a right to make a statement." Wren faced the crowd. 500 people staring at her, shocked and confused and starting to understand what they were hearing. "My name is Wren Calder. My mother was Melody Blue, a jazz singer who performed in Memphis in the 70s and 80s before she gave it all up to protect her children from men like Victor Hale. She died thinking her secrets were safe, but they weren't, because Victor found out about the recordings she'd made, and he decided they were worth killing for." "This is insane," Victor said. But his voice wasn't smooth anymore. It was sharp, desperate. "You have no proof. I have your voice threatening me. I have expert testimony about my mother's car. I have a witness who'll testify that you did the same thing to Christina Morales. Another woman who signed your contract and disappeared." Wren looked at him directly. "I have enough to destroy you, and I'm going to." She played another recording. This one was Victor talking about Christina, about making sure certain problems stayed buried, about money changing hands to keep investigations quiet. The crowd was murmuring now. Cameras were flashing. Reporters in the audience were typing on phones, already filing stories. Victor lunged at her, grabbed her arm hard enough to hurt. "Give me that phone!" Darius was there before Victor could finish the sentence, pulling him off Wren with force that sent Victor stumbling backward. "Don't touch her," Darius said quietly, dangerously. Security was swarming now. Police officers that Morrison had apparently stationed outside came running in. The ceremony had completely collapsed into chaos, and Wren just stood there holding her phone, playing recording after recording, making sure everyone heard exactly what Victor Hale was. Morrison pushed through the crowd, took one look at the situation, and made a decision. "Victor Hale, you're under arrest for assault," he said, gesturing to the officers. "And we're going to have a very long conversation about these recordings and what they mean for several ongoing investigations." Victor's lawyers were already on their phones, already calling in favors, but it didn't matter, because the damage was done. 500 people had heard him threaten a woman, had heard him talk about making problems disappear, had heard enough to know that whatever he wasn't the philanthropist they'd thought. The officers took Victor out in handcuffs while cameras flashed and people whispered, and the mayor stood on stage looking like his entire political career was about to implode by association. Wren let Thomas guide her out a side exit, away from the chaos, into a car that was already running. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen," Thomas said. "Both," Wren said. Her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "Did it work? You just destroyed Victor Hale's reputation in front of half of Memphis." "Yeah, it worked." They drove to the safe house. Liam was there with Diana, watching the news coverage that was already showing footage from the gala. Wren standing on stage, Victor in handcuffs, reporters calling it the scandal of the year. "You did it," Liam said. He looked stunned. "You actually did it." "We did it," Wren corrected. "All of us." Over the next few weeks, everything Victor had built started to crumble. The recordings led to investigations into his business practices. The break-line evidence led to Melody's death being ruled a homicide. Christina Morales' family came forward with their own evidence, their own testimony about the contract she'd signed and the way she'd disappeared. Victor's lawyers fought every step, but public opinion had already turned. Major donors pulled funding from his companies. Business partners severed ties. The mayor publicly distanced himself from Victor's charity work, and then someone from Victor's own organization, a former employee who'd been paid to keep quiet about Christina's death, came forward with testimony that placed Victor at the scene of her disappearance. The case stopped being about circumstantial evidence and became about murder. Victor was formally charged with 2 counts of homicide, Melody Blue and Christina Morales. Bail was denied. The trial was scheduled for 6 months out. Wren didn't wait for the trial. She took Liam and the plane tickets Darius had given her and left Memphis the day after Victor was charged. Not forever. Just long enough to let things settle, to let the legal process work without her being in the middle of it. They spent 3 months in Mexico City, living in a quiet neighborhood where nobody knew who they were or what they'd survived. Liam enrolled in an online school program. Wren started listening to her mother's recordings for the first time, hearing Melody's voice singing songs she'd never known existed. The music was beautiful, haunting, everything her mother had been before she'd chosen to become someone else. Wren contacted a music historian who specialized in vintage jazz, showed him the catalog, watched his eyes go wide as he listened to the recordings and realized what he was hearing. "This is extraordinary," he said. "Your mother was a genuine talent. These recordings belong in archives and museums. They belong to the world." "They belong to me and my brother," Wren corrected. "But we'd like to share them." They worked out an arrangement. The catalog would be digitized, preserved, released through a label that specialized in historic recordings. Wren and Liam would retain ownership, but the music would finally be heard the way Melody had meant for it to be. The first single released 6 weeks before Victor's trial. It was a song called Memphis Rain, Melody's voice rich and aching over piano that sounded like heartbreak. It went viral. Not because of the scandal, though that helped, but because the music was genuinely, undeniably good. People who'd never heard of Melody Blue were discovering her, falling in love with her voice, demanding more. By the time the trial started, Melody Blue was having a posthumous renaissance. Her music was being played on jazz stations across the country. Critics were calling her one of the lost voices of her generation. And Wren was sitting in a courtroom in Memphis, watching the man who'd killed her mother face justice. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Thomas testified about the brake line evidence. The forensic specialist testified about the cut marks. The former employee testified about what Victor had told him to do with Christina's body. Victor's lawyers tried every angle, discrediting witnesses, challenging evidence, painting Wren as vindictive and desperate for money. But the recordings were damning, the physical evidence was solid, and the jury didn't take long to deliberate. Guilty on both counts. The sentencing came 2 weeks later. Life in prison without possibility of parole. Wren sat in the courtroom with Liam on one side and Diana on the other, watching Victor's face as the judge read the sentence. He didn't look angry, didn't look defeated, just empty, like something inside him had finally broken. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Wren had prepared a statement, something brief and dignified that Thomas had helped her write. "My mother's music will outlive the man who tried to steal it," she said to the cameras. "That's the only legacy that matters." That night, Diana threw a party at the club on Beale Street. Not a celebration of Victor's conviction exactly. More a celebration of Melody's music finally being heard, of Wren and Liam surviving, of justice being slow but real. Darius showed up late, looking tired but satisfied. He'd stayed in Memphis through the whole trial, helping Thomas build the case, making sure Wren had everything she needed even when she was in Mexico. "You did good," he said to Wren. "We did good," she corrected. "Your mother would be proud." "I think she'd be horrified by the whole thing. But yeah, maybe proud too." Wren looked around the club, the same stage her mother had performed on, the same room where her voice had once filled the air with magic. "I want to do something with the money from the catalog. Something that matters." "Like what?" "A foundation. For musicians who need help, for kids who want to learn, for people trying to escape situations like the one Victor put me in." Wren's voice was steady. "My mother gave up her music to protect us. I want to make sure other people don't have to make that choice, that they can have both, the music and the safety." "That's a good legacy. Better than anything Victor left behind." Darius smiled. It was real this time, warm in a way Wren hadn't seen before. "You need help setting it up? Let me know. I'm good at moving money around. Might as well use those skills for something useful." "I will." 6 months later, the Melody Blue Foundation opened its doors in a renovated building in South Memphis. Music lessons for kids who couldn't afford them. Grants for working musicians trying to make rent. Counseling services for people escaping dangerous relationships. Everything funded by the catalog sales, which were still climbing as more people discovered Melody's work. Wren ran it with Diana's help, learning as she went, making mistakes and fixing them and building something real. Liam thrived. Finished high school, got accepted to college, decided he wanted to study music production so he could help preserve recordings like their mother's. They moved back into Memphis permanently, into a house that was theirs, paid for with catalog money that Victor had tried to steal and failed to control. The apartment in Midtown became a distant memory, something that had happened to different people in a different life. 1 year after Victor's conviction, Wren stood on the stage at Diana's club for the first time. Not to perform, She'd inherited her mother's love of music, but not her talent. Just to introduce the night's performers and say a few words about what the club meant, what her mother's legacy meant, what it felt like to survive something that should have destroyed her. The room was packed. Musicians, supporters of the foundation, people who'd followed the story and wanted to see where it had all started. Darius was at his usual table in the back. Thomas was at the bar, finally looking relaxed after a year of trials and appeals and legal warfare. Liam was running sound from the booth, professional and competent, and so much more confident than the scared kid from the child services office. And on the wall, in the place of honor near the stage, was a new photograph. Melody Blue in her prime, microphone in hand, lost in the music. Below it a plaque that said simply, "For the women who sing even when the world tries to silence them." Ren looked at her mother's face, at that captured moment of joy and talent and life, and felt something settle in her chest. Not closure exactly, but peace. The kind that came from knowing she'd fought for something that mattered and won. The musicians started playing. The first notes of Memphis Rain filled the club, and people went quiet, listening to Melody's voice coming through the speakers, timeless and perfect, and finally heard the way she'd meant for it to be. Ren stepped off the stage and sat down next to Darius. He handed her a glass of bourbon without being asked. "To your mother," he said, raising his glass. "To surviving," Ren countered. "To both." They drank while Melody sang, while the club filled with music and memory, while Memphis listened to one of its own finally getting the recognition she'd deserved all along. Outside, the city spread out in all directions, the river, the lights, the streets where Ren had once been broke and desperate and cornered. Now she walked those streets differently. Not as someone running from something, but as someone who'd faced it down and won. Victor was in prison. The foundation was thriving. Liam was safe and happy and building his own future. And Ren was finally, impossibly, free. The music played on into the Memphis night, filling spaces that had been empty too long, telling stories that deserved to be told, proving that some voices were too powerful to silence no matter how hard anyone tried. Melody Blue's legacy wasn't just the recordings anymore. It was the foundation. It was the lives changed by her music being heard. It was her daughter standing tall and refusing to disappear the way Victor had wanted. It was survival turning into something stronger, something that lasted. The song ended, the crowd applauded, the next performer took the stage, and Ren sat there with people who'd become family, listening to music in a room her mother had loved, finally understanding what it meant to build something beautiful out of wreckage. She'd started this journey cornered and desperate, signing away her future to save her brother. She was ending it as the founder of something that would help others avoid that same corner, that same desperation. That felt like winning. That felt like enough. The night stretched on, full of music and laughter, and the kind of peace that only came after a war you hadn't expected to survive. Ren let herself sink into it. Let herself finally breathe without waiting for the next crisis. Tomorrow there would be foundation work to do, meetings to attend, lives to help rebuild. But tonight was for remembering Melody, for celebrating survival, for recognizing that sometimes the strongest thing you could do was refuse to let someone else write your ending. Ren had written her own ending, and it was better than any story Victor could have told. The music played on, and Memphis listened, and somewhere her mother's voice rang out clear and true, finally free of all the secrets that had weighed it down. Finally heard. Finally home.